Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Sarutobi loses Naruto's trust harem. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by MRAY for TW and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. 1. Prologue. His clones had dispersed, relinquishing their memories to him that made him aware that they had performed their duties. One had completed writing a letter to his son, one had informed the old man his last wishes, and another carried a baby to his work office, and left a note in a picture frame. He looked down at his chest and sighed with a shuddering breath. A massive claw had pierced his wife's chest along with his own in their last-ditch effort to protect their son. As his life was fleeting, he started to think back to only 5 hours before. If one had asked him then how he was going to spend the night, the very last answer from the darkest recesses from his mind would be dying. He looked to his red-headed wife and her to him simultaneously in the eyes. Dimming eyes shared their mutual distraught emotions, their worries and anxieties strangely. Physical pain wasn't even a part of the bandwidth. Their thoughts were communed in like fashion, both joint as their lives ended with the uncertainty surrounding their son. It wasn't so much for the fact that they were dying, their clothes becoming drenched in a new crimson. It was the fact that they wouldn't even get to live for Naruto's sake. There was nothing for it, nothing they could do to fight it. Darkness started to swim around the edges of their vision, and their breathing slowed and became shallow. Their bodies finally gave out as they exhaled one last time as death staked its cold claim. Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, two of the finest shinobi of the village hidden in the leaves, had died, sacrificing themselves to restrain and seal the Kyubi no Kitsune, nine-tailed fox, a monstrous beast of staggering size and want of destruction. Kushina had held the beast in place with her chakra chains while Minato used a forbidden jutsu to seal the fox demon away in a newborn baby, only born a couple of hours prior, his own son. Although this was a decision filled with regret, he knew he had no choice because he couldn't ask anyone else's child to bear such a burden. He knew how hard Jinchuriki, power of human sacrifice, lived, but he was sure he could overcome it. So he sealed the Yin part of the demon's chakra in himself, and the Yang portion in his son, confident he could overcome the beast's hate, and be a strong shinobi in the future for the village. Kushina had also passed on her birthright to Naruto. His son had doubled the legacies to back him, and doubled the responsibilities that came with it. But there was yet another thing that bothered him. He could always sense his rival, staring at him from his hiding place on the night of chaos. His own contender for Yandane, who believed in power hoarding, and using whatever means to get it and keep it, no matter how dishonest or disgusting they may be. Perhaps he knew that he couldn't get his own invented Kekai Genkai that had long since been sealed when his heart had been dealt a fatal wound. But what of his own son? Hopefully, the last would be able to figure it out. An old man sat in a large office with a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes slept in a small basket on the desk in front of him. As he sat in his own chair, he looked on at the sleeping infant, and couldn't help but feel envious at being able to sleep just 1 hour after the end of one of the worst disasters to ever befall Konoha. The responsibility of having to look after a half-destroyed village didn't mean half as much work, unfortunately. It meant 5 times the work and 10 times the stress. The man was dressed in simple red robes being overlaid with white ones along with his badge of office, a dominantly red kite-shaped hat with a white diamond patch at the forefront with the words Fire Shadow written in red kanji. His face being the only exposed area of his outfit showed a tanned, wrinkled face that had a few liver spots complemented by a gray goatee and crow's feet around his eyes. However, it seemed that he had gained a few more wrinkles to add to his ever-growing collection. Hiruzen Sarutobi was tired. No, he was burnout. Everyone had a load of shit on their plate, but he seemed to have the biggest portion by far. He gave a weary sigh as he thought over his problems while he looked at the peaceful infant. The village is practically destroyed due to the Kyubi's attack. We don't have much funding to fully rebuild, not to mention the loss of valuable lives of shinobi and civilian alike. Ugh, and there is that council meeting tomorrow and I have to step back in to take control of all of this. And to top it off, Minato-kun and Kushina-chan are dead. They were the most this village had to offer to intimidate the other villages so they don't restart another war, plus the fact that their fame helped to bring in clients that kept this village afloat with funding. For one who was dubbed by the monikers the god of shinobi, and the professor, he didn't know what to do. I'm getting too old for this shit, he sighed. Suddenly there was a sharp knock at the door. Oh great. Just what I needed. A distraction, he muttered before loudly announcing for the visitor to enter. The door opened to reveal one of his Umbu captains. He was characterized by gravity-defying gray hair, a mass that may have been a part of his shirt that extended from behind his flak vest to the bridge of his nose. The description was complete with a leaf hittite that covered his left eye. People could only wonder what Kakashi Hatake got off by hiding at least 75% of his face. He'd probably lie if they asked anyway. Kakashi-san, what can I do for you? Sarutobi welcomed. Is it true that sensei has died, Hokage-sama? Kakashi asked, getting straight to the point. He could see the answer written plainly on the Hokage's face, but still waited for the elder man's response. Hiruzen frowned at the forward question and gave the man the affirmative, and Kakashi pressed on as he pointed at the baby in the basket. And this child his son? Hiruzen's face fell even more, if that much was possible. He didn't know how Kakashi came to know so quickly. Perhaps all those who knew or could come to that conclusion could be counted on a single hand. Kakashi, and he included, of course. Yes, the copy ninja sighed as he silently grieved. He knew as much, having been charged by Minato-sensei himself to guard his wife Kushina while she was in the early stages of her pregnancy till 2 weeks short of the end of it. While he knew that he, Minato, died and sacrificed to save the village would not want anyone to cry for him, he couldn't help but shed a few tears from his exposed eye. So what are you going to do, Hokage-sama? Figuring out a funeral, reasoning out the budget to fix the village, and to top it all off, I'm pondering what to say and what not to say to that damned council. Frankly, that's the easy part. Excuse me? The Hokage looked at him in shock. Everything except his heritage. After all, we can't handle any threats by any villages that have Minato-sensei's enemies affiliated with them, especially a Wagakure, they both stated with uncanny simultaneous effect. They both stared at each other for well over a minute. Then what about the Minato-sensei told us that he wanted him to be seen as a hero. How did you? I was beside you when his clone told you. Hiruzen started to fervently hope he wasn't going senile. Perhaps it was due to the stress of the situation. Yes, that had to be it. Despite the bleak situation, the older of the two men managed to crack a smile. You know, you should take this hat. Meh, don't feel like it. They both started to chuckle, but they stopped when they heard a giggle. They looked around, but then they heard it again coming from the basket. As they looked at the baby inhabitant who was giggling as it clutched a cheap-looking necklace that the copycat ninja recognized as Kushina's. The necklace was merely a string running through a small wooden necklace with the words Yuzu one side and a red and white swirl on the other. The child giggled again, and the previously crestfallen Hokage couldn't help but smile wider. He couldn't help but think that things might get better after all. Chapter 2. The third Fire Shadow sighed as he stepped into the meeting chamber. It was going to be a long day. Looks like he was wrong about things getting better. Not that it started out peachy anyway. The council men and women of the shinobi and civilian factions had all gathered. All those who had survived the previous night anyway. A particularly nasty thought ran through his head as he thought about Mabuki Haruno. He briefly entertained the notion that she might have perished during the Kyuubi's rampage, but all hopes fled when he saw the woman's stoic face from behind a councilman's head when said man shifted in his seat. Sarutobi could only think that a beast in great want of destruction had literally missed certain people who would not be missed, least of all himself. Did the damn creature actually kill the rest of the likable people in the village? Sarutobi took his seat and waited patiently for everyone to settle, or rather stalled before his migraine began. Finally coming to a more or less agreeable degree of silence, Hiruzen called for a complete version of it in a less than agreeable fashion, although his aura helped make it far more persuasive. Quiet! He bellowed, leaking just enough killing intent to scare the muttering civilians and ninja alike. Seeing them all visibly straighten, he nodded with approval. Now that we are settled, what's first on the agenda? Peace was once again forfeit in the chaotic shouts, each person trying to speak louder than the other except for the clan heads who calmly raised their hands. Hayashi-san? Hiruzen acknowledged. What of the Kyuubi? We all know that the fourth went to intercept it, but after a short period of time it disappeared. We wish to know what had transpired, the Hyuga said, or almost demanded as it were. His expressionless face was unreadable, yet Hiruzen noted that there was a hint of worry etched into the man's brows. The Sandaime gazed at the expressionless Hayashi and gave a sigh. Everyone leaned closer, as if a few inches increased their hearing capabilities. The Hokage began to speak. As you all know, the Biju are beings that cannot be harmed without massive effort from the offender. Also, even if they are killed, they would reform in a few years due to the fact that they are merely creatures comprised of nothing but chakra. So instead, Sarutobi beckoned to a maid holding something swaddled in a lilac-colored blanket. He couldn't take the risk of it attacking again in a few years, so he did the best next thing. By now the maid had now reached his side and Sarutobi took the bundle from her as people strained to see what was inside the blanket. For a fleeting moment, he wondered if he was about to make the stupidest mistake of his life again. He sealed it away in a newborn using the Shiki Fuin, Reaper Death Seal, a Kinjutsu, forbidden technique, which demands your soul in forfeit. He forged the strongest seal ever created with the Shinigami's help in the hopes that you all would see the child as a hero for having to live with this burden. Kanohigaku no Sato, village hidden in the leaves, Hiruzen proclaimed, lifting the child. She was saved by her youngest son. There was an ungodly amount of silence for a minute. On everyone's faces there was the unmistakable look of realization. Hiruzen, for a moment, had thought he had broken through to them. Yes, perhaps they would take what he said to heart. He'd heard of instances where the Jinchuriki were respected and liked, like Kyumogakure. But his hopes were dashed when he heard what was shouted next. They had come to realize that the boy was a demon in disguise. It was to be expected, it should have been expected. They were ignorant of the powers of Fuinjutsu. After all, how would one go about imprisoning a demon the size of a damn mountain inside a boy? He'd especially had hopes of the shinobi faction of being more educated on matters related to this, but was instead disappointed when they deferred to making the same shouts as the civilians. Whether it was mob mentality or just plain pent-up hatred, Hiruzen didn't know. Kill the demon! What the hell? The damn beast is still alive? Kill it now, Lord Third. My family died to that beast and the fourth left it alive. Those were just a few of those of the civilian faction. All of them were in hysterics. Fuinjutsu was a strange art, yes, but weren't the powers of all ninjas strange to the civilians? Granted, at first it did sound far-fetched for paper with ink scribbles to explode, but so was breathing fire, calling creatures from other realms, pulling bones from your body to fight with and seeing through walls, albeit the shinobi present have to be able to suppress personal emotions. Not completely, but to a tolerable amount. Also, all of them had to various degrees in knowledge of the sealing arts, and that it had virtually unlimited potential. But it was hard to grasp that it was still alive. They also called for its death, although they were trying to use logic in their speech. We should kill it now, Lord Third. The fourth sacrificed his life to make the QB vulnerable. After all, what is weaker than a baby? With all due respect, Hokage-sama, the child must be killed to destroy this threat. And so it went. On one hand, they were more respectful of his authority. But on the other hand, the message was still the same. The third was saddened to think that no one would recognize this child for who he is, a hero. But then again, heroes were seldom loved in their own country. An Umbu quietly and slowly reached for his tanto. To anyone who would be watching, they would assume that he was prepared to act as crowd control, in case anyone decided to become physically offensive. His right hand finally completed its 30-second journey to its destination and gripped the handle of his weapon akin to a hungry predator on its prey that refused to let go. He then reached for his cyanide and nightshade pill and held it in between his molars. He then focused a minuscule amount of chakra that could hardly be sensed into his 30-second delay A-grade explosive tag and started to remember his wife, his would-be wife. Her father had never liked him, but despite the fact that his denial of their relationship, the two lovers had been set to elope on the 12th of October. He could easily recall her vivaciousness. It was one of her many qualities that he had found attractive. She was all over the place, writing this, trying on this, putting on that, going here and there mad with preparations. He was passionately in love with her, and her with him. He was sure that after marriage he would quit being an Umbu, and slow down. Go on missions only once in a while and doing mostly routine village guard duty. As tears started to drip freely from the inside of the mask on his face to the ground, he realized that the day he yearned for, that being the 12th of October, was no longer real. No longer within his reach. It wasn't coming tomorrow. 20 seconds. He thought of the corpse of his fiancée he had seen half buried under the rubble of their would-be shared home, the place they would have raised their family. Even so, in that tragic moment, he had to leave to fight her murderer, who had moved on to destroy another area of the village. But he had failed. He couldn't even get close to the monster. It had all been for naught. No, he firmly thought. It wasn't that it wasn't within reach. For him, there was no tomorrow, but he would join her today. 171,615. He dashed forward at the Hokage, who was currently holding the child in his arms. 14. The Hokage was caught unawares, but his reflexes saved him and the baby as he withdrew a kunai from under his robes, but quickly parried the tanto with the kunai in a reverse grip. 131,211. The god of shinobi channeled chakra into his blade and cut the tanto in two, and the offending Umbu leapt back from the Hokage, sliding back in a prepared running man stance, already starting to charge at Sarutobi once more. The other Umbus watching the fight were surprised at first but got over it as they hurled multiple kunai and shuriken at the offender that struck and embedded themselves in his flesh, particularly his heart, lungs and stomach. His sprint slowed to a run, then to limp, then to a pain crawl, still moving towards the old man holding the bane of his existence. The killer of the love of his life, holding the baby as if it was innocent. 1098. Halfway there, his final position was settling into a prostrate form in front of the sandame, kunai and shuriken sticking out of him everywhere, making him resemble a human porcupine. The weapons also made the man bleed out to some extent, but not enough to kill him in the next few seconds. Hiruzen noticed something akin to water at the bottom of the Umbu's mask. Saliva. Tears maybe? 765. The Umbu groaned in pain. Won't be long, he grunted to the Hokage. Why would he say that? The Hokage thought. Probably because he's dying. But there was some satisfaction in it, even though he failed to kill me. Was he a spy? Assassin perhaps? Kami, just what I needed, some no-name assassin at a time like this. It was then with stark alarm that the Hokage noticed the bomb tag half out of the Umbu's bomb pouch with a slight glow around the kanji for ignite, and who knew how many more passive ones waiting to be detonated. Of course, 4. Explosive tag. Run! Sarutobi bellowed. He quickly looked around and saw everyone fleeing, and noticed that Umbus were performing the Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, with the slower civilians. In the heat of the moment, he grabbed Hamura with his right hand and used the seal-less Shunshin outside. 3. The Hokage suddenly appeared outside and released Hamura, who promptly proceeded to dry heave. It had been a while since he himself had been or done a Shunshin. Moving at high speeds at short ranges with drastic changes in scenery does that to the inexperienced or infirm at times when it seemed as if they were teleporting. 2. Will you be alright? Hiruzen asked hastily to the man who was on his knees, who appeared as if he was about to cough up a lung. I will be fine, he answered between coughs. But where is Koharu? Koharu? 1. You must go back for her. Take the boy. As Sarutobi was about to hand over the child to Hamura, the council room exploded in shattered glass and assorted flying debris. His face became crestfallen in worry for his former teammate, and hoped that no one, including her, got caught in the blast. He watched the Umbu perform assorted Sueton, water release, techniques pulled from wells using water manipulation or water made with pure chakra. Knowing his duties as Hokage, he proceeded to do the same. Koharu lay on the bed, having been dosed heavily on anesthesia. She had yet to become more aware of her surroundings, as well as her immediate situation, but Hiruzen at her bedside knew. And his insides were in turmoil of what it was. He was consumed by if only I had intervened more quickly, if only I had screened Umbu with personal tragic losses, if only I had given the child to Hamura, then grabbed both him and Koharu, all would have been saved, and so on. Hiruzen sighed. He knew that the past was past, and what done was done, but he knew when Koharu woke up, probably in the morning, she would not be pleased, especially given their rising animosity in the recent years concerning Ito's exile. Her son was gone. Who would explain to her? No one liked to be the bearer of bad news. Would Hamura, their other former teammate, do it? No. Knowing him, he would come perhaps 3 hours after she was told. Makes it easier to deal with the after emotions as well as being a bit distant from it to separate himself from the problem should it become worse. Let a doctor do it. They were used to giving bad news after all. He would simply come with Hamura later. Much later. What a shitty week. Chapter 3. It was a warm day in November in Kanahagakure. Just a typical day filled with birds singing, people socializing with each other through games like shogi, eating contests, or just relaxing. The village's children played with each other in the less busy streets and in playgrounds, their cheery laughter giving mirth to the adults who looked on at them. To top it off, a pleasant wind was blowing, keeping everyone cool. All in all, it was a very pleasant day, not to mention the fact there was even a festival planned for later. Everyone was happy, save for one. A 6-year-old boy sat on his butt hugging his knees in the shade of a large tree crying. He was upset because of unfairness. His spiky sun-blessed hair was dirty and unkempt that drooped a bit over his crying cerulean eyes. His whiskers that exaggerated his emotions when smiling, grinning or frowning served to single him out from the crowd and ostracized him wherever he went. He was wearing a black t-shirt with a pair of small shorts complete with shinobi sandals. All Naruto Uzumaki had wanted was a turn on the swing in the playground. He didn't go for someone who just went on. He just went to a girl who had been swinging for a good 15 minutes. After all, give someone else a chance, no? The girl just looked at him and threw a begging fit to stay on a little longer, and her outlandish behavior tagged her as a very spoilt little girl. What she couldn't beg for, she cried for. When that didn't work, she screamed. Naruto, trying to defuse her, told her that he could wait a little more. Sure, he said with a high wattage smile. Pleased with her victory, she stayed on the swing for another 10 minutes before he asked again. Cue crying. This attracted her father's attention, who was conversing with his wife on a nearby bench. He looked over to see the bane of Konoha with his precious angel, and she was crying. In all honesty, even Naruto at his age knew that the developing situation didn't look good. Oi, demon brat! Get away from my little girl, you! He shouted, already looking for a stick or rock or something to punctuate his sentence with on the boy's person. He finally found a rather large branch and rushed at the boy, determined to defend his daughter. Before he could hit the boy, however, 2 members of the Konoha police force, clad in their typical robes complete with their clan crest, a red and white fan, appeared out of thin air, grabbed him by the wrists and shoulders, and then all 3 disappeared. About 10 seconds later one returned and started to escort Naruto away from the scene. He was already familiar with how they operated, and just let them handle him however they wanted. The man's wife, however, let Naruto know how she felt about the whole situation. You damn demon! Look at the trouble you've caused. First you pester my child, get my husband arrested. What next? Are you going to get me killed next? Why don't you just die and let us live in peace? This spawn of the Q-. That was as far as she got in her rant as another operative of said force appeared behind her and landed a cuff on the nape of neck, driving it upwards to the backside of her skull, effectively knocking her out. He then proceeded to grab the still crying girl and then disappeared with the 2 females in a swirl of leaves. The remaining patrons of the playground didn't dare do anything while Naruto was escorted away by the first. Nothing that could get them into trouble anyway. Glaring and upset whispering was not punishable by law. The miserable boy, no longer able to rein in his emotions, burst into tears and ran away from his handler into the woods. The Uchiha, deciding to give him some space, proceeded to shun Shin away to return to patrolling. The boy pumped his short legs as fast as they could carry him. He had no real destination. It could be anywhere, so long as he could get away from the cold glares, angry murmurs and unfairness. The boy was about to pass a large tree under which he tripped on one of its great protruding roots at his top speed. All it served to do was to bring him to a complete stop from his adrenaline-enhanced run, physical pain compounded on his emotional one. He crawled over to the tree, and started hugging his knees, still crying. The immense pain in his ankles started to dull and then fade altogether. The boy, however, continued to cry for another 5 minutes, after which he laid on his side still hugging his knees. The ankle was sprained only for a few minutes. Looking up at the tree, he was lulled to sleep by its gently swaying branches in a hypnotic, rhythmic pattern. It felt lovely. He then fell asleep. It sounds very promising. Furthermore, it stands to both of our nations' benefits, Korsan, Hiruzen stated after the discussion. Without a doubt, Hokage Dano, the ambassador replied. In addition to sharing trade routes, we will be able to open new ones, greatly increasing financial assets of our respective villages. We also stand to gain militaristic clout when we assist each other in conflict. Excellent. The Hokage beamed. The council won't need long to deliberate this. It doesn't warrant much to ponder over, seeing that the answer is as plain as black and white. In the meantime, I trust that you will find your accommodations to your liking. You shall be able to stay as long as you wish, Sarutobi went on, a bit eager to please. The Kyuubi attack 6 years ago had put a seemingly bottomless hole in the treasury that desperately needed filling, hence the reason the Hokage wanted this treaty to go through. It was more or less ass-kissing, not that he would admit it to anyone. Much obliged, Hokage Dano. I certainly shall. At a discreet signal, 2 of his masked umbus appeared. Umbu, please show our guests to their accommodations for the night. As the Kumonins left to be escorted to their hotel, the elderly Hokage smiled. This was his first true smile in 6 years. Finally, things were going to get better for the Hidden Leaf. They badly needed a win. Yet somehow, it felt off. Like it was too good to be true. He hoped he was wrong. It looks to me that the Raikage was right. We made him an offer he just couldn't refuse, and it really shows that they're desperate for the money to rebuild. The damn tree huggers. Core Jinsaku was pleased. While he knew he was on a potentially suicide mission with his guards Keiji and Eizu, he knew that his death would consolidate more power to his home, the village hidden in the clouds. What are the next steps, Core? Eizu quietly asked. His patience wearing thin, Core nearly yelled. Speak up, man. Damn, I'm tired of always having to read your lips to know what you and Keiji are saying. You know it is in our nature for being born of the Sorrento clan, Eizu quietly stated, completely nonplussed by his cohort's exclamation. Well, at least you're not as bad as Keiji. Barely says 5 words in a whole fucking year. Anyway, we all know what to do. Both of you will get into the Hyuga clan compound and retrieve the heiress. They should all be focused on Lady Hitomi having contractions. Keiji, do you have the concentrated time essence? Keiji gave a small nod. Good. Keiji dropping the time essence in her tea, or even releasing it in the air in her room, should cause her to have premature contractions. While everyone is fussing over her, we will acquire the heiress in the confusion. Having these Hokuya clan members will further help this endeavor, considering they don't have chakra coils, but instead purely manipulating yin and yang release to use stealth techniques. They should be, theoretically, invisible to the Byakugan dojutsu. Then Eizu will fetch me the girl and I'll use my swift release to get back to Kumo, leaving behind a clone with my cohorts to ensure we are not suspected, leaving at the time we told the Hokage. We will have the Byakugan, and Konoha none the wiser until it's well too late. We're heading out 1 hour after the festival starts. People not drunk by then will be halfway drunk, as well as almost all the shinobi off duty. That's our best time. Both of you shall approach the compound from the southeast forest. According to our intel, that area is the least guarded. Going with logic, should be even more so because of the festival tonight. Is that understood? Yes, Eizu affirmed, with Keiji nodding in his response. Very well. Lady Hitomi is having contractions. What? It's 2 months too early. Unusual, yes. But we have to get her to the medical wing. Hi, went off without a hitch. Once I've crossed the border, Kumo will win. Core muttered. Keiji and Eizu will have gotten back to the hotel with my clone, looking reserved by morning, as if we don't know anything. As if. He laughed. He adjusted the drugged girl more comfortably for running before channeling even more of his innate swift release and took off even faster, practically faster than a blink, so fast that he noticed it too late. A stick of some sort had caught him in the face, right in the nose, and broke it. Arg! The child flew from his arms into the air. Even in his pained state, he saw the child flying into the air and he panicked. He didn't progress this far and the plan just failed because he ran too fast to notice a stick in his way. A stick? He followed through with that train of thought as he got up and ran towards the spot he predicted the child would fall, seeing its general trajectory. A stick from one of these local trees should be supple, scratching my face as it bent, not flat out striking me as if it were as inert as a thick branch or something artificial and man-made, like metal. Here his thought came to an abrupt halt as he saw the child disappear at the apex of its journey in the air, apparently due to someone, or something's intervention. What? Who's there? He hissed in confusion, looking around wildly. Over here. He turned to the source of the voice animatedly, only to see a man sitting on a tree stump holding the toddler against their chest. Core, getting upset, charged at the stranger with his swift release, but at the last second, his fist hit a purple barrier of sorts. He drew back his fist and lunged with a kunai only for it to be harmlessly repelled to the side, the barrier only appearing when external contact reached within a few feet of the man. Hey asshole, you mind not doing that? You might wake up the girl. He looked down at the girl, wondering how she hadn't awoken as yet. Oh? She's drugged? Core tried to attack the man again, with each attempt ending in failure and everything but serving to get himself angry and frustrated. With his anger reaching its peak, he resorted to jutsu, almost uncaring if he hurt or killed the Hyuga heiress. Right on, Jibashi. Lightning release, electromagnetic murder. Electricity flashed in deadly arcs from the Kumo ninja's hands to the man and surrounding area. Seeing the man still unharmed, he laced in 3 times the amount of chakra needed for the jutsu, for it to finally end in an explosion around the stranger. As the smoke cleared, Core looked forward to seeing the man electrocuted and burned, but was instead treated to the sight of scorched grass and ground in a perfect circle around him. Are you done yet? Another voice, but similar, sounded behind Core to see an identical replica of stranger standing 30 feet away from him. Shit. A clone. For the first time, Core studied the man. He was dressed in a jet black trench coat with a hood over his head. His look was completed with a holster with a small stick in it 4 inches long, as well as shinobi sandals. Wait, stick? Could that be the weapon that struck me? But it's too small. You want that barrier down, huh? Just kill me, and that'll release the barrier and disperse. How about it? The stranger said. He spoke in a deadpan voice, but ridicule was salted into it. It was obvious that he certainly didn't expect the Kumo nin to be able to beat him. Who are you? The stranger shrugged. Name's Ito, he said easily enough, as if he didn't really care much either way. Core paused for a moment to figure if he could remember the name, but couldn't. Just give me the girl. Not as if she's your daughter or some shit like that. You don't know her? I know of her. You gonna try to take her back, or are you gonna walk? Ito sounded as if he really didn't care much either way. He'd actually want the man to stay. He had something that he wanted. At that, Core took out his kunai and held it in a forward grip, studying the black-clad man's stance or lack thereof. You gonna make a move? Core taunted. Can you fight? The stranger replied back. More mind games. Core gritted his teeth. Die. Core ran at the man at full speed, channeling swift release. With speed like his, the man will be dead inside a second. Just as he lunged with his kunai, 1 inch before striking the man's chest, the stranger grabbed his knife arm at the wrist with his left arm, and jabbed his right arm through Core's armpit, sidestepped, and planted the palm of his hand against the back of Core's head. He then slammed Core's head right onto the hard ground, effectively knocking him out. Pathetic. With the man taken care of, Ito turned back to regard his clone that held the child. So you're gonna tell me why you look like me, you damn 9 tails? The man who held Hinata gave off a standoffish vibe, yet still on guard. You've never changed your wardrobe, and it's better to look like a crook than a beast running amok through the village, am I right? I came because I sensed the brain-sucking hanging around. Better I take after you when I'm prepared. Oh? Ito was now more than just merely concerned as he prepared to decapitate the unconscious swift-release user. So you gonna fight me? Why the fuck are you here? The disguised 9 tails demanded. Chapter 4. Where is she? The servant involuntarily shivered under her master's gaze, desperately trying to muster up the will just to speak clearly. We don't know, Hayashi-sama. We have already searched the whole compound, the festival, the whole village. She is nowhere to be found. Hayashi was angry. No, he was downright furious. Some third party had to be involved. There was no way a 4, on the verge of 5-year-old could be able to escape detection from the all-seeing Byakugan. But who? He couldn't call anyone to mind. If the child was really outside the village, there had to be foul play afoot. He couldn't call to mind anyone who would do this to him or his daughter, not anyone alive or locked up anyway. But even if they could have been there, they had no means of being able to sneak into a compound filled with people able to see through walls, kidnap his daughter, and sneak her out of a shinobi-dominated village without the tiniest bit of suspicion. But what had happened, and there was no undoing it. They had to pick up the pieces, relieve some Hyuga guards because of incompetence, and find his daughter. Alright, that's enough, Kuya, Hayashi said in a huff to the nervous branch member, as he made up his mind on his next option. Return to your duties. Hearing this, the frazzled branch woman was relieved, as she had thought that she would have been punished for bringing bad news. While Hayashi did not practice using the caged bird seal, like other main branch members, particularly the elders, he was unpredictable at times of great adversity, and this was certainly one of those times. He wasn't generally unkind, but he did look especially in the mood to be. I am here to see the Hokage. His normally stern and flat tone, and was marred with worry and anger, and likewise was his face. She allowed him to go upstairs and informed him to knock on the Hokage's door once there, and he did so with markedly more hurry than she'd ever seen a Hyuga in. Come in, the muffled voice from behind the door said. Hayashi turned the knob and pushed it open to find the Hokage dressed up in a simple blue kimono. Apparently, the man was just about ready to leave himself to attend the festival. Hokage-sama, a moment of your time. I have an important request. You just caught me, Hayashi, the wizened Hokage said coolly, though his mentality was rapidly settling into crisis mode. By all means, Hayashi-san. What is it? The old Hokage inquired. My daughter's missing. I wish for you to locate my daughter, Hinata, so I may know her whereabouts, the slightly frowning Hyuga replied bluntly. But isn't this a clan problem? Even more so, this should pose no problem for the Hyuga's dojutsu. That is the problem, Sarutobi-sama. We cannot locate her within the village walls, dojutsu or not. It's Hayashi hesitated, trying to choose his next word, disconcerting. Well, this suddenly went from bizarre to upsetting. This is serious. It was an easy assumption that Hayashi wanted him to use the crystal ball to find his daughter, made more sense than mobilizing a couple dozen ninjas. Without the prompt being spoken, the Hokage got out the crystal ball and started the technique. Soon, an image of two men appeared, one of which held Hinata against his chest while the other held a man over his shoulder. The unconscious man on the shoulder was recognized as the ambassador he was speaking with earlier. Hayashi and the Hokage saw the one with Hinata about to knock at the door that the two black-clothed men stood in front of. However, the man with Hinata hesitated, and seemed to argue with the other before then poising to knock. "Where is that?" Hayashi asked. "It seems familiar. Is that our door?" Both Hyuga and Sarutobi froze. At the same time of the image of the man knocking at the door, they heard a knock at their door. Both Hayashi and Hiruzen shared an uneasy look, and the Hyuga nodded to him as if saying to let him in, not as an order or request, but as a plea. The elderly Hokage then flared his chakra twice to tell the hiding Anbu in the room of a potential threat before he welcomed the men inside as clearly as he could manage. "Come in." The door pushed in to let the two men in, along with their human baggage, but the one who carried Hinata entered in the lead. Hiruzen took in their description thoroughly, wearing a black trench coat not unlike Ibiki's, with black full-length pants along with black shinobi sandals, some sort of kanji he couldn't see clearly. He also wore gloves that exposed the tips of his fingers with protective metal plates on the back of the wrist. The man's head was covered by a hood that was complemented by a face mask that came up to the bridge of the man's nose, and his eyes were shadowed by the hood of his clothes. Both men were similar in appearance, leading the Hokage to believe that one of them was a clone of the other. "Who are you?" Hayashi asked the hooded man tensely, bordering on the edge of threatening. The man, either not noticing the tone, or ignoring it, replied in an even tone, "Just a hungry man passing through. I was looking for something to eat when I saw this guy and decided that he tried to think of a lie, if only for the QB's sake." Intervene. He didn't mention his own name either. Just the mere mention of it would draw every single Anbu in the area to try to kill him. Furthermore, given by how vague he was, everyone realized that he didn't care to tell them his name, and chose to ignore that fact. "Explain yourself? We wish to know what transpired," the Hokage requested, now calming, seeing the mysterious man as no longer a threat, not now anyway. His Anbu were still on standby, but he didn't tell them to stand down. He himself wasn't relaxing either, and he was sure that Hayashi was the same. "Simple. This, your daughter Dash," he gestured to the sleeping girl, "was kidnapped by this man Dash," he nodded at the still unconscious man, "and I stopped him before he reached the border." Judging by he said, Kumovikyo was just after the Byakugan Dojutsu. Hiruzen interlocked his fingers in interest. "Could you describe what happened?" "We stopped him, that's all you need to know," the clone said, speaking for the first time. The clone then handed the sleeping girl to her father, who cradled her to his chest relieved. "Then I challenged him," the original continued with mild gusto, suggesting that he was a prideful person. "He ran at me and I knocked him out." "That's it? Oh, so he was exhausted then, I take it?" Hayashi asked. "No. Just weak, or at least to me. He only used one B-ranked right-on technique, and was a user of swift release." Both Hayashi's and the Hokage's eyes widened at this relation, though the latter didn't allow his surprise to show as much as the former. Knowing of the incredible speeds that came with this release as well as the added perks that came with having a Kekai Genkai, plus the fact that it was a certainty that the ambassador was a skilled shinobi, the man before them was powerful. Period. "Seeing as you intervened in our favor, I take it you're affiliated with Konoha then?" the Hokage asked almost rhetorically, trying to look for anything that could tell him of who he is. Or was. The stranger stroked his chin in mock thought. "Nope. Ain't got no allegiance, especially to this village. To be honest, it's my least favorite." "A missing nin?" Hayashi was alarmed. His Byakugan activated, ready to act. Also on their own way of thinking, before Hiruzen could cue them otherwise, the Anbus in the room leapt from hiding and attempted to incapacitate the strange man. Attempted to. A magenta-colored barrier appeared in front of the clone and the unmoving man that electrocuted the two Anbus into unconsciousness. The men looked down at the Anbus briefly before back at the Hyuga and Kage. "Konoha is such a grateful village," the clone said sarcastically. "You know, maybe I should have helped Kumo. After all, they appreciate guys like me up there. I'm just a good hack." He laughed for a moment, wondering if he even believed the words that were coming out of his mouth. "Fire shadow, rein in your animals. I can still sense them, they don't like me much." At ease. At the Hokage's order, everyone relaxed. Hayashi stared at the man for a few seconds more with his Byakugan active before deactivating it. "But then why help us? I want to know why. You don't know us, work for us, or even against Kumo." "You had no reason to," Hayashi said, trying to get over the fact that the man disabled two Anbu without even moving. Among his many other off-putting characteristics, the clone cocked his head in apparent curiosity. "So you'd prefer I assist Kumo, I take it?" "No!" Hayashi almost outright exclaimed. "However, I am grateful to you, sir. You have my gratitude for returning my daughter, gratitude and well wishes. If there's anything I can do to repay you..." "Careful," the man said cheerily, "or I might have to take you up on that." "Would you like to work for Konoha?" the Hokage asked, wanting to have such a powerful ninja in his ranks. Or at least have a friend instead of an enemy. "Damn, old man, weren't you listening? I don't like Konoha." He made a show of shrugging his shoulders, trying to get it across that he didn't wish to rebuff the man, only to refuse his offer. So no thanks. In any case, take the man. The stranger dropped the ambassador as if he was nothing more than garbage, and yet unwillingly, and started to turn to leave. The clone had already left, no one was sure when. I hope you'll never need my help again, 'cause I'm not a huge fan of helping. But about what you said about being grateful to me, I dig that. Methinks I'll take a favor later on if I need it. Fire Shadow Hyuga. He nodded to both men in farewell, but for some reason, it was somewhat impolite when he did it to the Kage. The original stepped backwards to a shadow in a corner of the room and was gone. I don't sense him. Hayashi? Hiruzen whispered. At the prompt, Hayashi walked to the corner and felt it, and his hand came away with nothing. Why didn't you use your Byakugan? The aged Kage asked. Remember when I had my Byakugan activated earlier? Yes, of course. When I looked at him with it, he vanished. I could only see him without it. The Hokage was baffled. That is unheard of. Who is that man? Chapter 5. A lone boy slowly returned to the waking world he had left some time before. He wiped away the matter encrusted at the edges of his blue eyes with his sensitive hands. It felt as if they were being punctured with pins and needles. He must have fallen asleep on them and cut off the blood flow to an extent. He sat up, trying to get his bearings before remembering, and mournfully contemplating the events of what had happened to him at the playground. The mean looks, the lady, and what she had said something about him being the spawn of the 99 something. He didn't know because the woman didn't get to finish her sentence. What did she mean? I'll just ask Gigi. I bet he knows all the stuff in the world, he thought with ending finality. So long as the man didn't somehow distract him from his questions like he sometimes did, Naruto felt that he should be fine. When he had gone to sleep, it was after midday. He didn't have enough discernment to realize that the shadows currently were being made by an eastern sun, almost directly overhead. He looked up at the tree and smiled. He felt fully rested. He'd had a really good nap. What he failed to realize, he had lost a full day while he was asleep. He ran home, and his cheaply made red and white necklace glowed a faint white. Deep inside, the Kyuubi grimaced to itself, wondering how he was going to explain to his container that he was in trouble. Nay, perhaps later when the boy was older and sensible. Much later, the lavender-eyed girl woke up and gave a small yawn. As her lavender eyes adjusted to the bright light streaming through her window, she suddenly noticed that her mother was sitting on the opposite side of the bed, smiling at her. Good morning, Hinata-chan, she said happily. The young girl hadn't even fully awoken yet, and was barely able to return the courtesy, leading the mother to believe that she was drugged and some of it was still in the girl's system. How are you feeling? I still feel very tired, Oka-san. As if I haven't slept at all. That only served to affirm her suspicions. Hitomi decided to let her daughter to return to sleep, hoping that she could perhaps sleep it off the rest. Very well, Hinata-chan, you may go back to bed. You don't have to go to your private lessons today. However, you will speak to your father when he calls for you, is that alright? He wants to speak to you about last night. Hi, I love you, my musim. Hinata blinked stupidly before letting her eyes close with a small smile gracing her bony face. I love you too, Oka-san. With that, Hitomi left the room. By herself now, Hinata thought it was strange that her lessons were not to be taken today. She had them every day for an hour, beginning promptly at dawn. They were unavoidable, except on special days of celebration in the village or her birthday. So why was she being allowed to return to sleep? She allowed the question to niggle her mind for a bit before ignoring it. With her head on the pillow, and the pull of slumber almost already too strong, she was close to getting knocked out with sleep. Absent-mindedly, her last hollow thought was that she felt she could recall something, animal-like, trying to protect her from something, and a lot of arguing. Didn't this happen last night? Wait, didn't her father want to talk to her about last night? She fell asleep. The kettle whistled its special call, but Koharu groaned. While she wanted the tea inside, she wished she had the energy to get up and get it, but she had just settled down in her most comfortable bed with a new book that promised intrigue with mystery. The kettle called for another minute before she gave up with a sigh and dangled her lower torso of the bed. But she lost her balance and landed on her butt. Kyuso, still struggling to use her weary muscles and aged bones, she pulled herself up using the bed frame as support. Finally rising, she hobbled to the corner on one leg and grabbed her crutches. 6 years of being a post-amputee, and she hasn't grown used to it. She had only grown more surly, taciturn and bitter. It hadn't gotten any easier. Instead, it had grown more and more difficult in her advancing age. As it had grown bothersome to cope with to do normal and simple everyday activities like walking or dancing she used to enjoy doing so much, not to mention the new hurdles like stairs. Just another reminder why she moved from her third-floor apartment to one on the ground floor. Making it to her kitchen, she leaned one of her crutches against her kitchen table and leaned on the other, bracing on it, and turned off the flame. She then poured the hot beverage into a cup and set it down, and not a moment too soon. Phantom pain had set in on her amputated left leg, making her grit her teeth. Her cut nerve still registered pain below her knee when it was no longer there. Cammy, why me? What have I done to deserve this? I can't help but feel it's that brat's fault. If it hadn't been for him, the Umbu wouldn't have bombed the council building. It was a weak accusation, and she knew it. But she needed someone to blame. Tears streamed down her face as she wished for relief from the pain. Both physical and emotional. And Ito, my son. Where is he? I don't even know if he's still alive, what with Hiruzen keeping him from me with his damn exile. Doesn't he even care? Ito was a lot of things. A crook, maybe. Too determined and ambitious for his own good. Definitely greedy, and strong too. Hell, he was even one of the nominations for Yandame in competition along with Orochimaru and Minato, but he was never around, especially in times like this when she missed him and wanted to see him. Where was he? 6. Naruto fidgeted uncomfortably in his seat before letting his head hit the desk as he suffered through his teachers, or sensei as Irika's ego would prefer, boring lecture, not wanting to look through the window anymore. Bemoaning the loss of what looked like a day perfect to be anywhere else doing anything else, he allowed the sound of the man's teachings to break down into a background monotone. Winding down in his ministrations to his class, Yumino Irika smiled as he thought of all the young minds he was passing down his knowledge to. And that's why Ninja Wire is so strong. He trailed off when he saw a spiky mop of bright blonde hair far too close to the desk, indicating that the owner had his head down again for the third time that morning. Naruto! Wake up! Irika shouted, stopping right in the middle of his lecture to chuck his eraser at the seemingly asleep Uzumaki, just to let him know just how much he appreciated the boy napping in his class. I wasn't sleeping, Naruto shouted while lifting his head. Depending on varied opinion of whether it was fortunate or not, when he rose up, the eraser clocked him squarely between his eyes. Ack, serves you right. If you were paying attention, you wouldn't have gotten hit. Save for a very select few, the whole class erupted in a laughing riot. There were the usual jeers and teases that were duly expected from a class of children, be it that they were ninjas in training or not, but one comment in particular stood out to him, that remark coming from the pretty girl he liked with the pink hair. Faye. Sasuke-kun would have dodged like a pro. What, Sakura-chan? I didn't have time to dodge. She stomped over to him and gave him her rebuttal, that being in the form of a 4 knuckles drilled into his head. Quiet. Naruto baka. Needless to say, he now had a large bump to match with the welt on his face. Itai. Alright, cut it out everyone. Irika demanded, trying to restore order to his class. More or less successful after a bit, he refocused his attention on the Uzumaki. Naruto, sorry for thinking you were asleep, but you need to keep your head up and pay attention. You know that you're not exactly the fastest, so you need to put in more effort to learn. Okay? Naruto grumbled something about already knowing the subject matter that the man was teaching, but was only not able to remember it. Deciding that he'd lost because of this facet, he tried to look apologetic despite being irritated. Hi, Irika-sensei. Now throw me back the eraser. Feeling that the man needed a bit of comeuppance, Naruto reached under his desk where he kept a small stockpile of prank items hidden, and withdrew something that was certainly not an eraser. Here you go. Catch. Irika stared large-eyed to see a large yellow balloon coming at him that seemed to have suspicious contents coming at him. Before the balloon filled with pink paint even made contact, Naruto had already beaten a hasty retreat out the window. Irika's yell of surprise was cut off, and was soon followed by one of indignation. Pink paint? Naruto! I'm gonna get you for this! Irika yelled, exasperated as he tried to smear off some of the paint off of his face with an equally paint-ridden forearm. The class stared at him, not knowing whether to poke fun at him at the risk of incurring the man's wrath, although Ino soon made a deliberate observation. Irika's all pink. It's such an awful color. That's my hair color, Ino pig. Billboard brow. The two girls stomped over to each other, insulted each other some more, which led to a catfight over Sasuke's love life. As Irika looked on, still covered in pink paint, he did the only thing he could to salvage some esteem in his students' eyes, and give himself a chance to leave under the impression that he wasn't completely upset. Class, break for lunch. Immediately, the class rushed past him through the door outside, and when the room was empty except for himself standing in pink puddle, he wondered if it was Naruto's specialty to make a class go from order to chaos. Deciding to leave him be for the rest of the day, he went to tell Mizuki to take over the afternoon class while he got himself cleaned up. Damn, I nailed him with that one. He didn't even see it coming. I wonder what he was yelling though. I'm gonna get you. Meh, whatever. The Bond ran through the busy streets eager to get to his favorite, and only, place to get lunch. The fact that the streets were parting as if to give him free way didn't escape his notice. Heh. At least that's a perk. They leave me alone. I should be grateful. They don't beat on me like they used to. I think I can still remember everyone. Every single person that's done me wrong, it's in my mind somewhere. I'm gonna get stronger, just to show us that I didn't need your help to get where I'll be. Maybe you'll be sorry then. He hoped they would be sorry. Finally slowing to a stop, he saw that he had arrived. Lifting one of the privacy flaps, he saw two of his most favorite people inside. They were his especial favorites when he was hungry. Hey Ajisen. Hey, I am Onizen. Hey there, my #1 customer. Ichiraku hailed, smiling. His welcome was both a fact and a compliment, and he was sure that the boy was aware that it was both. Ayame beamed when she saw the boy coming, and did her best to ignore the fact that two other customers at the other side of the establishment leave when they saw Uzumaki enter. How are you guys? Naruto asked. We're doing well. You. The boy shrugged casually, knowing his own emotional turmoil but not wanting to share it. Oh, the usual. I got bored in class and pranked Irika-sensei. Maybe I can top it tomorrow. Naruto gave the two of them a fox-like grin. Again? Ayam asked, sounding a bit displeased. Not that she would ever tell him. Ayam liked to hear about his pranks, or more specifically, seeing how it was therapeutic to him. Again. You would think he'd learned by now that I don't put water in my balloons. At least I didn't use oil paint this time. I've got a heart. So how many bowls are you having today, Naruto? I'm going to be honest with you, my radio just died, and I'd like to get a new one. Cutting him off in line, his daughter chastised him for his insensitive comment, as he tried to mollify her. I was only joking. The elder Ichiraku chuckled. The usual? Yes, please. For once, he prepared to sit still as he waited for them to prepare his favorite meal, from the perfectly round dumplings, to the blemish-free pork and chicken strips, the smooth noodles that slid down the throat to the delicious broth that warmed his stomach comfortingly. As expected, Naruto lost his patience to his hunger-induced fantasies. Aji-san. I'm dying of hunger. Naruto whimpered like a struck dog. You're so melodramatic. Here it is. With that said, Ayam placed down a miso ramen, another one with pork, and her father came out with one that didn't smell entirely right. Naruto's nose twitched. Aji-san, is that? Yes, Naruto. You haven't forgotten, have you? It's Tuesday. No. He was about to get up and run, but Ayam reached across the counter and caught him by the scruff of his shirt. No, come on, Naruto, the Hokage ordered us to give it to you. So Heimi thinks that if you become a Kage, you can cancel it and force him to eat it when he's retired. She knew it couldn't happen, and he knew too. He still appreciated her sense of humor, and it helped bolster him a little bit. You bet I will. Now let's get it over with. Naruto reached for the bowl, looked into the bowl and grimaced. Something wrong, Naruto? Ichiraku asked. You know, besides your poor diet ethics, it's an abomination. It's soup. I am deadpanned in response to the boy's melodrama. And I tried my best to make it more tolerable for you. I even had them soaking in miso spices overnight. Ayam replied in a complaining tone. Naruto looked into the bowl. Instead of being filled with noodles, meat and dumplings, it was filled with spinach, broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Damn. Well, itadakimasu, he said hesitantly. He looked back over at Ayam, who was waiting expectantly to eat. Well, if she could put in extra effort just for him to eat vegetables, maybe he could reciprocate? Maybe if he'd had more than one choice in restaurants, Naruto figured that he'd stay right here. They kind of reminded him of his family in Wave Country. I love you guys, he grumbled almost humorlessly. But I hope you know that I love you less on Vegetables Day. They smiled. X equals X equals. So, Sasuke-kun, do you wanna? No. Well, how about? No. The pinkette was dejected. He'd already shot down both her invitations before even hearing them, only by using a single-syllable word. She cowered like a dog with its tails between its legs. Later, Sasuke-kun. To which Sasuke didn't even bother to reply. The brooding Uchiha sighed and placed his chin in between the palms of his hands. As he sat on the park bench, he tried to take his mind of Itachi for once. The dobe. Am I the only one who saw it? I could see that the eraser was going to hit his goggles, probably hard enough to break them, but it was like he was trying to decide whether or not to let it hit him. But he's just a dead last. I am stronger than him, more skilled. I am an Uchiha. But it was strange. Sasuke could be prideful, and he acknowledged that. He could also accept that other people were stronger than him, and he knew that his own despised Oni was many times more powerful than him. What he couldn't accept was the fact that Naruto could actually be stronger than he looked, more skilled. If it really is like what I saw, why not let it hit his goggles? I know that they're cheaply made and sold at a discount price because they lack a meaningful purpose. Is it the goggles that he's fond of protecting? Or are the goggles hiding something? Suddenly, the Uchiha grinned. That's it. I'll just take the goggles from him. If he tries to protect it, it'll mean I was right. If he doesn't, then I'm just overestimating the dobe. HN. Now, how to kill Itachi? Sasuke walked off, falling back in his pastime of imagining himself torturing his traitorous elder brother. Though unrealistic, it was purely cathartic. Ugh. Thanks, I guess. At least old man Hokage won't force-feed me again. You don't make it easy, Naruto. At least you didn't run away this week. Naruto was exasperated. I attempted to. I would have gotten away if someone hadn't grabbed both my legs. He cast a half-hearted glare at Ayam. He couldn't believe that the mild-mannered girl could or would do something as to tackle his legs to prevent his escape. Well, that's it. No more of that ramen, Databayo. Good thing I saved the best for last. The miso'll help get the vegetable taste out of my mouth. At least until next Tuesday. Tochi smirked. I'll just stay home on that day then. Naruto was feeling smug. Do you want the Hokage to send someone after you again? Naruto shivered. The last person the man had sent was no joke. He'd woken up in the middle of the night to see an umbu in a Nico mask had tied his limbs to the four corners of his bed. The umbu went on to shove vegetables in his mouth, and then pinch his nostrils shut to make sure he ate it so that he could breathe through his mouth. Not an enlightening experience, or one he wished to have again anytime soon. Or ever, for that matter. No matter how much he told the Ichirakas that it was traumatizing, they'd only laughed, be it in disbelief that it was a joke or merely ridicule. Well, I'll see you later, guys. By the way, I need the 20 bowls of ramen for next week, you know, and those takeout bowls you guys have? Sure, Naruto-kun. When and where? The orphanage again? Ayam asked as she was given a small booklet of 20 sticky notes, all of them with an amateur picture of a whiskered smile. It was a drawing of a wide grin with 3 lines on either side of the grin, akin to aforementioned whiskers. One could say that Naruto drew his own grin as a signature of sorts, no doubt done as a sort of calling card or twisted autograph. Either way, Naruto's ego was leaked into it heavily, and it remained to be seen if it was a good thing or not. Since it's you, Naruto, I'll do top-of-the-line service. It's a priority, Teuchi exclaimed. Naruto-kun, really? This picture? The brown-haired girl asked, dumbfounded. There's nothing wrong with it. Later, guys. And with that, he jumped off the stool and made his way home. So what's the picture of? The elder Ichiraka asked. Ayam chuckled and handed one of the pictures to him. He took it from her and peered at it. Heh, that boy is certainly eccentric. Still doesn't explain his attachment to that place, though. Naruto pushed open his door and sighed. Home sweet home. Is it, boy? You know it's in terrible condition. Hell, even those orphans you're trying to treat with the ramen live better than you. 10 lives better than you. Why don't you go live there? Not only is it a pigsty, you're surrounded by people in this district who all hate you. Maybe we should run away again. It's worked out before. Oh, what? Kyubi? Naruto answered in his mind, taken aback that he was being spoken to by his inner Biju. He was usually quiet. Isn't it your personal rule to only talk when I talk to you? And you know why I don't live at the orphanage. You're the reason. Besides, I'm not about to do something stupid. Do you take me for a fool? No. I take you for an idiot. What's the differ? Wait a minute. Goddamn Kyubi. There was only a demonic-sounding guffaw coming from the recesses of his mind. Naruto sighed. Sometimes, the Kyubi was tolerable, like now, helpful on rare occasions outside of when Naruto was asking for favors, but otherwise just a pain in the ass. Otherwise tended to be most of the time. Naruto walked into the kitchen and opened his fridge. Easy choice. Either water or milk. Sampling the milk, however, the choice dropped to one. He spat out the rancid milk directly into the sink drain in utter disgust. Bleg. I bought this milk 2 days ago. I'm just opening it. Kyubi, he yelled inwardly. What's today's date? Do you know? The 28th. That's the Naruto reached for his notepad that he always carried around with him and flipped to the part that was filled with names. Alright, shopkeepers. He continued to scroll through it. Found it. Says here that guy's name is Yoshiro Suin. Wait, this is the 8th time that fucking shopkeeper screwed me over. Is he hoping that diarrhea will kill me? Not very creative or likely, but it would be funny if it were possible, the Kyubi commented. Shitting yourself to death. Heh. Trying his best to ignore the chakra monster's statement, the Uzumaki asked it for what it called on a coin flip. Spread a nasty rumor or just a normal prank? Naruto took a real coin and flipped it. Rumor, tails. The coin landed back in Naruto's palm. Hey, you won again. You've picked tails for the past, 9 times? 9 times? 9 tails? Is that some bizarre coincidence? Bullshit. I think you're manipulating the spin somehow. You've got to be cheating. The beast was nothing if not mock surprised. The nerve of you, dash. Interrupting his line of speech, he felt something foreign pass through the seal. No, a crack. It wasn't actually a good thing. It was actually an eroded seal that he himself had made to help put a block on Naruto's eidetic memory. Things that had happened not worth remembering couldn't be held back anymore. Alright. Enough of that. Remember what I told you about the seal. The finally broke. Get in here. It's time. I gotta take it off before you turn retarded. No, I mean more retarded. Naruto grumbled, there is just not a chain long or big enough for me to do things that you deserve. You. Despite saying this as if he was in a light mood, he was actually the complete opposite. I could feel it. I could start remembering some stuff recently, like my birthday beatings, but in flashes. And some dude dressed in black that I'm supposed to kill. I thought I had more time. I don't want to remember all that. I'm happy now, aren't I? The kitsune did not answer for a while, but when he did, it was solemn. You can't afford to live in bliss anymore. Naruto put everything in order in the house before he laid down on the bed, as straight as a board with his arms at his sides. He tried to think of nothing at all, but soon, the seal embedded in his mind like a fishhook was slowly ripped free, and he couldn't stop himself from yelling his hurt until he fell unconscious. If you need age reference, Naruto just recently became 13, and Tenten's almost 14. 7. She walked through the village to where she knew his house would be, and more than a little worried. The academy's school day was finished and her favorite blonde had failed to attend. While he openly admitted no shouted that he hated the academy for having too much damn bookwork, he never skipped a whole day. Come running in at the final hour a few times, but never a full day. Besides, while he was reckless, he wasn't stupid, or at least that she was likely one of the very few who thought so. The genin exam was the day after tomorrow. He wouldn't want to botch his chances by failing to attend. Without even realizing it, she had walked straight into the district where Naruto lived. She sighed. She did it again. She let herself fall into a state of autopilot. Even though autopilot mostly ran on muscle memory, this only went to show that she visited him a lot. Visited him without him knowing. No, she was stalking him when he left his home daily in the afternoons. I could use his absence as an excuse to visit him. If he's there. What if he isn't? What if something bad happened to him? Should I talk to somebody about it? It was too easy for her to get caught up in doubt, and what was worse was that it usually low-key led to self-doubt. What would I do if he doesn't want to see me? It was a rather pitiful state of mind, she reasoned, and she was fully aware of why. While she was pressured to be a perfect heiress for her clan, especially the elders, she got some constructive help from her mother as well as her father from time to time. She did not have any ambitions such as becoming the head of the clan, nor her sister, and this detracted a lot from her drive to perform well. As for Hanabi, she merely wanted to be the first of the Hyuga capable of incorporating elemental chakra into the Jukin, gentle fist. It was presumed impossible, but that was the primary, and ironic, reason why Hanabi wanted to be the one to do it. Niji was even being considered to be a fallback heir, being born so close to the main branch as well as being a prodigy of the gentle fist style in more than 5 generations. But he was particularly cold. He seemed to have some vendetta to everyone but his parents. Perhaps only he knew. Perhaps the cause of her shy personality and self-doubt could be due in no small part to him. Suddenly, Hinata found herself in front of Naruto's apartment building and she sighed. She had been on autopilot again. However, this poor mental reflex seemingly sabotaged her by leaving her to try to actively think about what her next move should be. When a while had passed, she realized that she had been standing as still as a statue with her hand poised to knock for more than 10 minutes. What if he doesn't want to be disturbed? She pondered using her Byakugan. It seemed like the safest solution. If he's doing anything that seems important, I won't disturb him. If he's casual, I'll knock and request admittance. She formed her unique dojutsu hand seal. Byakugan. Her dojutsu immediately pinged into use with veins bulging around her eyes, enhancing her eyesight with the extra chakra. That must be him in the bedroom on the bed. Is he sleeping? Maybe I should just leave. But she looked on a little longer. Something felt off. She knew that Naruto did not take afternoon naps. He was too hyperactive for that. Besides, he would have been training at this time. And why was he lying down in that position, akin to a dead man? And his chest wasn't moving. It was as if he could be dead. That was when she finally processed that last thought. Dead? No. With that, all self-issues went out the window and hesitancy be damned. She took a step back and rammed the door. The lock easily gave way out of the dry rotting door jamb, but the privacy lock and chain held fast. She rammed it again and the lock came out with a piece of the door's wood stuck to it. She rushed into the bedroom and gasped, seeing her crush lying stock still on the bed. Naruto-kun. She was about to burst into tears when she noticed him take a small breath and exhale. Now relieved, she became embarrassed to practically breaking and entering his home when he was only sleeping. She stood and waited a little longer, trying to match her breathing with his, just in case he was actually having difficulty breathing. As she wasn't up for checking him physically, she'd probably just pass out. Inhale after taking a deep breath, she watched and waited patiently to exhale when he did. Despite having taken a deep breath, she was still forced to exhale after a minute, and it was only for a while later before he exhaled. Something's wrong. His breathing's still much too slow even for sleeping. She checked his pulse at his neck and timed it. She was now grateful for all those hours she'd spent extensively reading about the human anatomy when she was just starting to learn the Jukin. She checked him twice, but Naruto's pulse was barely 10 beats a minute, and very faint. Hinata was surprised and rapidly becoming anxious. It was as if he was hibernating, for lack of a better word. The Hyuga immediately started to pace beside the bed. What do I do? What do I do? Call someone? Who? Give him CPR? Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? She looked back to the object of her crush as a deep crimson blush crept up her neck into her face when her mind went into overdrive thinking of the implications. Kneeling down on the ground next to where he was on the bed, she tried to nerve herself up to try, but with her own face merely inches from his, her own hesitance and feelings for the boy stopped her, and superheated her face in a fiery blush. And as sure as night follows day, her thinking of Naruto like that led to fainting, and her head slumped down on his chest. The gigantic nine-tailed fox grumbled to himself morosely. It had been 13 years since he was sealed. He could easily escape, what with Naruto relinquishing control over to him so easily. In fact, this wasn't even the first time that he'd been able to, but the truth was that he didn't particularly care for escaping. He had his reasons, the most predominant of which was the fact that he had nowhere to be, not to mention the potential scenario that Naruto would die. There was also the argument that he was probably safer being jailed than being free and being sought after by all the nations to be jailed again. Sure, he could fight them off, but he doubted he'd ever get to nap in peace again. The Kyuubi wasn't necessarily an evil being, especially considering that he was consisting of yang, supposedly good chakra. Regardless of this, mentally, he was a neutral being and did things when he felt given to act. He helped when he felt generous, destroyed entire landscapes when he was pissed but otherwise just kept to himself. Minds were intangible and basically all things alive had one. It was what really counted in a being, and it was specifically that which he was working on. Naruto's mind, that is. For 3 years, Naruto's had a seal suppressing the memories of his childhood. A recycle bin of sorts. The memories would have made him catatonic for life and soured him, perhaps even making him mental. But as any other trash can, there was a limit to what it could hold, but it could not be disposed of as Naruto's abilities and principally his eidetic memory which made that impossible. Now, the memory-suppressing seal was threatening Naruto's mental health, as well as his own. Naruto would go crazy, and the Kyuubi himself would just become chakra without a mind, just random periods of behavior that would lack direction and purpose, so he was now forced to remove the seal. Hell, maybe the seal would have lasted longer if he was more proficient in Fuinjutsu, he thought as he finally finished. Boy, it is done. It is time to awaken. How are you feeling? Naruto's eyes exploded open. He actually had some potential responses ready. Never been better was one, or even saying like a boss was an option. What he hadn't counted on was Hinata kneeling on the floor next to him with her head on his chest, completely unconscious. To the far left, his door was smashed at the knob, showing that the girl had broken into his apartment. Confused. 8. She slowly came to, with her limpid eyes seeing only a blur. She blinked as her vision became focused, trying to get her bearings. That's not my bedroom ceiling, she thought when she stared up above her. Wrong color, had cracks, definitely not hers. Where was she? Are you awake now, Hinata-san? She looked around frantically, searching for the owner of the voice all the while still trying to figure out where she was. Probably tired of seeing the girl rubbernecking in her efforts to find him, the voice spoke again. Right here. She leaned her head all the way back while lying down. She now saw Naruto sitting behind her head in a chair adjacent to the couch she was in. Naruto-kun? She yelped, hurriedly getting up. She now remembered what had happened. Naruto seemed on the brink of death, but now he looked as fit as a horse. I was check visiting you. Immediately her fair complexion went for a scarlet one. That's fair. So what? You knocked, but when I didn't answer, you decided to break it down? He queried, pointing at the damaged door. No. I got worried when I saw you on the bed not moving. I was CC concerned. Was that before or after you broke down the door? His tone was cold, and so was his expression, making her worry. He was normally the type of person to take things in stride, and he never really had that sort of face for people. She took it hard that her crush would look at her like that. I used my BB-Bikugen. I'm very sorry for BB breaking the door and violating your privacy. She was worried that he was angry with her, seeing his expression. Naruto was about to blow up, then seemingly stopped to consider what she said. To her surprise, her crush started to laugh. It started as a chuckle while he was serious, but he lost his serious expression by the time it turned into a deep-bellied laugh. Hinata stared at him stupidly. Trying to get himself together before he completely lost posture in the conversation, he cleared his throat. Sorry for laughing at you, Hinata. I guess it's alright since you were justified in your concern for me, even though it kinda makes me question why. The truth is here he choked and looked away. For someone to be concerned for me or even visit besides old man Hokage or the Ikarakus, or even if it were them, it means a lot to me. Thanks, Hinata-kun. He was so sincere that it was painful. Meanwhile, Hinata could hug herself in her joy and relief. He used the affectionate with me. He likes me outside of her head, however. Her facial complexion had flushed so much that one would have thought that she was trying to impersonate a tomato. Fortunately, she soon got it under control before Naruto looked at her again. Clapping his hands, he tried to clear the mood for something more light. Anyway, seeing that you're fine, thanks for coming by and hopefully next time I'll even get a chance to clean up. With minimal effort, he escorted her to the door as she allowed herself to be manhandled. See you tomorrow. Gotta get ready for that test and all. See ya. He closed the door behind her, leaving her out in the hallway. Phew. Now to get started. Little did he know was that she was still frozen. He called me Hinata-chan. Now, she was impersonating a statue, and likely would for a while. Back on the inside, Naruto felt like something was off. Is she still there? Quite likely. She probably is. What do you mean probably? I meant sense for her. The Kyuubi shrugged inside the seal. Didn't have to. I can smell her scent. It's still strong at the door. It's coming in because the door is slightly ajar. Not shut. Remember that she broke it down? Anyway, do you think she's still being here will disturb what we're going to do? Naruto asked. Not at all. Now get back in here. Naruto complied and went back to his bed. Lying down stock still again, he closed his eyes and released his mind from all distractions. He soon felt a tug on his psyche and gave into it. Reopening his eyes, he was now greeted to the now familiar sight of the sewer that was his mindscape. He wandered the tunnels with no general direction and soon found himself in front of the great cage with the nine-tailed fox behind it, just as the usual. Took you long enough. Now let's get started. Came the Kyuubi's welcome. Before we start though, my forehead feels like it's burning again. Can you take a look? The boy asked, rubbing his forehead. In fact, his entire head felt like it was on fire. It was a feeling he'd had before, and it was never pleasant. What, like 3 years ago? The QB was concerned, but at the same time excited. It was like a scratch ticket. He wanted to know what Naruto would get now in addition to what he had now. Yeah, Naruto replied. Come closer. The boy stepped into the cage and stepped onto the QB's hand-like paw. He then lifted the boy up to his eye level and looked at the boy with an observing gaze. The boy trembled a bit, being in a discomforting position as he was caught under the great fox's scrutiny up close. From what I can tell, the kanji aligning to the arrow says focus, not sure what that means. I was hoping that the word describing the ability would be less obscure. Focus? You think it means a mental ability? Naruto asked. It could be, and it probably is. If it does mean mental though, it probably won't be a letdown, even though it doesn't sound as useful as memory weight. The QB had a thought cross his mind when he considered his final word. What is the shopkeeper's name? The kitsune suddenly tested. Yoshiro Suin. The boy answered. What's today's date? Yesterday was the 28th when we started, so today's the 29th. The boy's eyes then widened considerably. Of course. The suppressing seal is off. The boy gave a wide grin but soon frowned. I remember. Forgive and forget is once again impossible in your case, boy. You're now more mature to deal with the memories of getting your ass whipped by the village, anyway. At least you don't need to walk around with that shitty notepad anymore, or having to keep asking me for the damn date. And understanding seems to active again. You're not as slow as a snail anymore. I'm still taking offense to all of this, you know. Let it be. Do you remember the school's lectures? Yeah. I can. What I was awake for, at least, the boy jested in good humor. Despite his eidetic memory now active again, he felt better. The monstrous kitsune put down the boy and snorted. Not the time for jokes. The exam's in 2 days, so you must study. The QB stopped to rechoose his words and laughed. Heh. I mean read the teacher's books tomorrow. You won't forget it at all. But damn, these abilities are strange. There could be more of them waiting to be unlocked. This is an unusual bloodline limit. I have never seen nor heard of it before, and I have lived for centuries upon centuries. It could have been created in you, or it came into existence just a generation or two shy before you. Such simple gifts, yet the potential is virtually unlimited. The QB scratched his chin, now getting increasingly worried about the bloodline thief that was gunning after his container. You can leave. I'm tired. The QB yawned and settled down with his head on his hands. QB, the boy said hesitantly. The kitsune said tiredly, half opening a bloodshot eye. Thanks. You know for everything. I'm gonna make sure that we find him and end the guy that killed my parents and got you sealed in me. I owe you that much, at the very least. Yeah? Sure. You're welcome and all that emotional shit. Now let me rest. With a curt nod, the boy disappeared out of the mindscape, figuratively leaving the QB by himself. I never could understand that boy. Maybe I need some of his understanding ability, the QB muttered under his breath. On the outside of the seal, Naruto opened his eyes and waited for them to adjust to his overhead light, although he subconsciously believed that they attuned far more quickly than they usually did. He sighed tiredly with a hint of frustration in it. Yeah. I remember especially when I got memory. Is it a blessing or a curse? Making his way to the bathroom, he took off his goggles and looked over his still aching forehead in the mirror. There were 3 concentric circles there. 2 small arrows pointing to the east and west passed through the first circle. They had kanji in the circle at the back end of the arrow that said understanding and memory respectively. But there was a new one that the boy beheld. There was an arrow that passed through the first and second circle. The kanji was focus. Well, anyway, you got a peek at Naruto's abilities. This will be a unique bloodline limit, I promise you. It's just that sometimes, the little things get overlooked for overpowered dojutsu and all that. During the war, I wondered if the show was called Madara. Hell. No. I don't want suggestions for abilities. I got them already planned out, but I hope that you won't be disappointed. Valid omnes? 9. Sasuke had woken up a bit surly. He had planned find out what the dobe had hidden under his goggles, or what was important about it. But Naruto had failed to attend the academy. Was he avoiding Iruka? No, that's stupid. In the past, when he pranked Iruka in the morning, Naruto would come back to class in the afternoon. Why? The genin exam is in 2 days. He has to come today, if not tomorrow. Or he'll fail. Yes. Today's the day. I'll find out, one way or another. Even he himself didn't know why he was letting himself think or obsess over something so trivial, but it did occur to him that it was likely due to the fact that he was bored, and the academy itself was humdrum. He suspected that he was at the top not only because of his prestigious clan, but also because he practiced the most when he was at home, and he was the only one who did, save for a few like Shino and Kiba. The latter was probably practicing his clan's taijutsu all the time, which would explain his dismal grades. But the tests were also tied in with practical knowledge, like shuriken throwing angles. That's why Sasuke reasoned that he was at the top, just by training. He went about his hygienic duties and prepared his breakfast. While eating, he thought of the final exam. Perhaps it wouldn't hurt to go over a book or two, in the event that he got a couple of irrelevant history lessons. What was he supposed to do, throw around useless history facts instead of shuriken? How the fuck would that kill his older brother? Regardless, his patience tested, Sasuke read. After finishing up, he left his house to make his way from the Uchiha compound to the academy. Along the way, he was greeted as usual. Ohio, Sasuke-san. Hello, Sasuke-sama. This was the typical greeting from the civilian Uchiha. They could not reproduce the prized Sharingan that was sought after by the village. They disliked him, he presumed. The villagers in general kept calling him the last loyal Uchiha, as if the civilian ones didn't even exist. His brother had murdered all that were capable of using or reproducing the Sharingan. Those civilians mattered somewhat to Sasuke. At least for now anyway. Until his own Sharingan activated, he was one of them. He would play along with their hidden snide. Ohio. He answered. As soon as his Sharingan activated, his brother was going to be in a whole lot of trouble. 497,498,499,500. He pushed off one last time off his hands into a squat, then rolled backwards over the lateral side of his right arm. In the final moment of the occurrence, he backflipped neatly, landing on the balls of his feet on the very edge of the roof of his apartment building. Perfect, and that's that. Tomorrow's the exam. What are your plans for the day? I'm sure you don't expect to just walk up to the teacher and ask politely for his notes, do you? Actually, that's exactly what I expected to do. The boy's sweat dropped. Anyway, I've been thinking. You think? Didn't I warn you about that? Naruto grumbled heatedly to himself. Once again, the Kyuubi was acting like a pain in the ass. I have understanding again, okay? Damn. I know I acted like an idiot for the past few years, but it's over now, I guess so. You even entered the mindscape almost as soon as you felt like it. Focus seems mediocre at first, but now I'm thinking of the possibilities. You could even perfect mind over matter. To think you could be tortured and you would be able to whistle through it all, simply by having your concentration elsewhere. Yeah. True. But I don't intend to get tortured anytime soon. Anyway, I've been thinking about the genin exams. Go on. The Kyuubi was curious. It all boils to 200 at this. The Great Fox was confused. That didn't happen often, and certainly not within the past couple of years. He prompted the boy to explain, and Naruto obliged him. Exam results. Think about it. It all comes to 200. In the exams, they determine team placements by combined scores. They place the top 2 of the class with the bottom of the class. It's like a sum to 11. 1 plus 10 equals 11. 2 plus 9 equals 11. 3 plus 8 equals 11 and so on. I understand. The top 2 best in the class plus the last is like adding 100 plus 100 plus 0. As it gets closer to the middle, you would see something like 90 plus 90 plus 20 or 70 plus 70 plus 60. A sum to 200. In other words, Sasuke plus Sakura plus you equals shit. The Kyuubi now realized what his container was driving at. Yeah. It worries me too, especially having to go on a team with Sasuke, even though I really don't mind Sakura that much despite how punch-happy she is. But think about it. We could use this knowledge to manipulate who we could want as a team. Naruto was growing excited, but his mind did not wander thinking of the possibilities. Naruto went about his normal hygienic activities while he kept up the discussion. Let's see. Using numbers, without counting those ordinary civilian ninjas, they have nothing notable. They all average out each other. Sasuke, 95. Sakura, 95. Shino, 90. Hinata, 90. Ino, 80. Choji, 80. Shikamaru, maybe 30 or 40. Kiba, 20. Me, 10. Naruto snorted while Kyuubi laughed out loud. You had it coming, boy. What with falling asleep and truancy in the mornings and whatnot, you know it wouldn't have made sense anyway. My memory sucked at the time, true. But you could have taken notes. We're straying from the issue. By now, Naruto had donned his new outfit. It's safe to say that the Uchiha and Haruno will be a team. Inuzuka, Aburame and Hyuga will be on another, and the last team will be a repeat of Ino Shikacho, being comprised of Yamanaka, Nara and Akimichi. Let's see. The members of Ino Shikacho are out. Besides, one's perpetually lethargic. One needs to constantly eat to store fat, and has no stamina to support his weight, and Ino, he grimaced. Gives blondes a bad name. Oh, as if you were any better? He ignored the jab at his intelligence. I don't want the stuck-up Uchiha on my team, and maybe I guess I don't want Sakura on my team after all. That leaves Kiba, Shino and Hinata. You should definitely go for the Hyuga. She obviously likes you enough to visit you when no one else would. The Kitsune did not mention that the girl was infatuated with him though. He was content to let his container figure it out. He would simply count the days it took him before he realized, starting with today. It still didn't appear likely, and the Kyuubi low-key got the feeling that Hinata would have to yell it into his face. I guess that part about Hinata makes sense. That leaves Inuzuka and Aburame. Shino seems to be the most chill out of all of us, and he's pretty smart too. Kiba, now, he would probably be constantly fighting for dominance like his clan. They act like dogs, fighting to be the alpha. They imbibe it from their mother's milk, or something. He would be the easiest to manipulate, or the easiest to cheat out of a team. But if ends up on my team, it'd probably be a daily pissing contest with him. Sounds like a plan. Well, get going. You will have to talk to the mutt before the day is out. He grabbed his goggles and strapped it onto his forehead, concealing the symbol. Yeah. That's right, Databeo. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, new and improved. He rushed out the door, but had to pause in order to stop up the door with some paper and jam. I really have to get the door repaired later. Thieves could just walk right in, he mused. What do you have worth stealing? Trying his best not to yell out loud at the Kyuubi for not his constant immature teasing, Naruto ran to the academy. Having arrived early, he stopped at the institution's library and picked up a book about Konoha's history and went into his classroom. Mizuki was the only one in there, preparing exams for tomorrow. The silver-haired man noticed the boy's entry, but not who he was. Not caring to chat up the man, the Uzumaki only grunted out his pleasantries to the teacher, who replied with Ohio for standard courtesy. Naruto sat in his seat, opened his book and read while he waited for his classmates to arrive. He didn't have long to wait, and soon the rest of the students arrived in bulk and Irika followed after. He must have driven them inside when he saw them loitering about, outdoors. Being in the lead of the group, Kiba was the first to notice someone sitting with a book in front of where the face would be. He thought this to be strange. Normally, everyone would remain outside until class begun, a postponement of sorts. If he was there already, he was enthusiastic about learning, not to mention the fact that pretty much everyone had been outside already. Hey, new guy. What's your name? Kiba asked loudly. Naruto dropped the book to the desk. Everyone gasped. Naruto had shaved his hair to a lower and more manageable level, while still retaining its spikiness. As for clothes, he now wore black Umbu-style pants that were ankle-length, revealing gray shinobi sandals. He also wore a long-sleeved midnight blue shirt that was zipped right up a close-fitting neck that had a bandana around it that was littered with red streaks throughout. The shirt itself had a hood that was currently down. In addition, he had a 21-inch tanto. The handle was 5 inches with a single palm grip, on his back in such an angle that it positioned the handle of the blade over his right shoulder. The look was complemented by some sort of cylindrical sheath that rested perfectly horizontally just behind him on his waist. In fact, the only thing that Naruto retained from his old outfit were his goggles. It spoilt the new look somewhat because of its mismatch in scheme color, but not much. Naruto, is that you? Irika was stupefied and the body of students were shocked beyond belief. Sure, Irika-sensei, it's me. The boy answered. I only got a haircut, what's the big deal, huh? Now hearing the boy's voice, Mizuki looked up for the first time from his paperwork and observed the development. What's that damn brat up to now? He muttered under his breath before clearing his throat to speak up out loud. Naruto. Nice outfit. Finally decided to have mercy on our eyes by getting rid of the eyesore of a jumpsuit you owned. What inspired you to wear these clothes and get that tanto? Mizuki asked cheerfully. Getting serious for the exam when it's almost here? Something like that, I guess? Naruto answered. Irika was surprised. He could tell from the boy's aura had chanced in the single day he'd spent away from school. He still retained his eccentricity, but the facts were there. New clothes, explained his situation in 6 words, wasn't being excitable. Clothes didn't necessarily make people brand new, but this was a brand new Naruto. Ha! Look at him, trying to act all tough. Bet he still can't even do anything worth a damn, Kiba laughed scornfully. Akamaru, the boy's companion dog on his head, barked somewhat unsurely. Naruto frowned a little but soon let a smirk dominate his features. Heh. Hey Q, I just found a way to manipulate the Inu here. It's convoluted yet simple. It can't lose. What is it? The fox was now interested. Naruto was becoming increasingly clever, he could admit that. But the day when Naruto's intelligence exceeded his might be soon upon him. Think. He's very arrogant, like most Inuzukas are, but they're primarily taijutsu specialists. If he loses a taijutsu match, he'll try to mend his pride by investing all his time to improve on it only, so he could win a grudge rematch. He won't cram for the written exam so he'll fail that. Even if he gets perfect marks in taijutsu, and the 3 academy jutsus, he'll still barely pass, but in dead last. He'll still barely pass, but in dead last. They finished at the same time. I'm proud. I would have tried to do something more sly and painful, but you do something less underhanded that will also teach that mud a lesson, the beast said in amazement. I forgot how smart you were. Why the hell did we suppress your abilities in the first place, anyway? Yeah. Now let's see if we can cut him down to size. Is that so? I can't do anything worth a damn? How about a taijutsu match then? He asked the Inuzuka, already knowing what the end result would be. Who do you think you're talking to, dead last? Kiba jested. The other students now began laughing at the whiskered boy, boosting the Inuzuka's ego. I'm talking to an Inuzuka mutt with dog breath. Or is he gonna run away with his tail between his legs? Naruto now turned the students against Kiba, and they all oohed when heard his comeback. Say Irika-sensei, it's alright, isn't it? It'll help us prepare for tomorrow, and you weren't gonna teach anything today just before the exam, were you? Naruto asked. No, Naruto. Just revision. But I still don't approve. Irika remarked with a resigned groan. I say let them go at each other. Can't last longer than 15 minutes. So long as they pay attention in class for the rest of the day, I've no qualms. Mizuki gave out his opinion. Shouldn't last more than 15 seconds. Inuzuka is going to rip the little shit to shreds, especially now since he's angry. Should be fun to watch. He thought. Alright. I guess that's true, Yumino conceded. He still didn't want this to proceed, but he really didn't have a choice. If it didn't go through, his students would heckle him for the whole day. And besides, if Naruto ever deserved some sort of karmic action for a prank, particularly a recent one that was paint-related, then this was fair. Although he hoped Kiba wouldn't kill him. The students surrounded the sparring circle, and Sasuke pushed his way to the front. While he wouldn't admit it, he was eager to see if his questionable theories on Naruto were true, that being whether or not he was actually concealing his skills. Perhaps even more interested in Naruto's welfare but too hapless to try to go through the crowd to observe more closely, Hinata activated her Byakugan to see through the crowd, and marked Naruto out as usual because of his uniquely large chakra coils. Naruto handed his tanto to Shikamaru, mouthing to him to keep it for him. He then took his place on the mat, where Kiba was doing stretches. Ready, mutt? Just you watch, the boy growled back. Naruto, what about that? Iruka pointed at the holster peeking from behind Naruto. He wasn't sure what it was, but he was sure that it was a weapon of sorts. What about it? Taijutsu match, hand to hand. It's in case Akamaru intervenes, Naruto said shortly. And in case Dog Boy gets feral and claws start coming out. Kiba was born with the ability of the claws from his nails. Tools, Naruto retorted. Excuse me? Iruka was confused. They're all tools which assist him, just like how a clan would have bloodlines and techniques like the Sharingan, the Byakugan, or Shino with his insects. They're all tools which assist them, as are my weapons, Naruto explained. As if I need Akamaru or my claws to beat the likes of you, the Inuzuka called. Iruka was shocked. Naruto had defended himself eloquently, and since when did he have the moxie to teach? Iruka decided to just give. He'd been doing a lot of that lately. Naruto, seeing Kiba finally settle into his pouncing stance, went into his own. He stood sideways to Kiba, positioning his left foot facing forward towards him with his right foot behind him, pointing to the right. Most of his weight seemed to rest on the left leg. Also, he stood mostly on his toes and his outstep while his arms were loose, hanging a bit limp. The students were all thinking that it was not the academy's stance. Some said it looked weak, some said Naruto made it up, and still others laughed. Honestly, Mizuki was a bit more fascinated in the stance than most, but was far more interested in the coming beatdown. He stepped forward and started the match by swiping down his hand. Hajime. Kiba, deciding to end the match quickly, sprinted at his opponent, thoroughly intending to knock Naruto out with only one punch. That'd teach him not to overstep his place. Naruto angled his head to the side and caught the offensive arm and pulled on it, adding his opponent's running momentum, and pulled Kiba past him. While he passed him, he stuck his foot in the way, tripping him. Kiba face planted instantly, and all the students laughed at him. He jumped back up onto his feet, seething. He had been careless. Naruto was stoic, and that only served to piss him off more. He threw punch after punch at him, kick after kick, each being countered and him being thoroughly embarrassed with each passing one, as well as growing tired. Akamaru barked concernedly from the sidelines. Finally, he decided to kick Naruto below the belt, aiming for his groin. Naruto, seeing that he wasn't going to give up, decided to go on the offensive. He sidestepped the kick and delivered his own kick to the back of Kiba's leg behind his knee, point driving upwards. Gasping in pain, he abandoned the failed kick, holding his leg. Naruto didn't give him a chance to recuperate. Kicked away Kiba's pained leg, delivered 2 quick punches to his side and 1 to his gut. Kiba tried to yell in pain, but all his air was pushed out of him. With his head about to hang down, Naruto dropped into a crouch and delivered a powerful haymaker to his chin that made his head snap backwards in a hurry, lifting him up off of his feet and making him landing on his back. Suffice to say, Kiba got knocked the fuck out. Naruto, now done, looked around at the crowd of students, as if daring someone to say something he didn't like. As for the bloodline, it is original. Some of the attributes like memory, Sharingan copy to memory, are coincidental. Besides, I think it only applies to jutsus. The symbol in his forehead reminded someone of Kagaya's third eye, and I have to concede that too. To defend myself, I only placed it on his forehead because it felt like the best place since it gives way to explain how the abilities thus far ties into his mental prowess. Giving more purpose to the goggles and his potential Hatai 8. The abilities, both now and future ones, may seem reminiscent of powers seen thus far to those in the manga and anime, and I say I have plausible deniability. 10. They were completely speechless with mouths agape. The dead last of the class just beaten the second best of the class in taijutsu, and made it look easy. Iruka was the first to regain the power of speech, but his words were still barely coherent. Kiba Elo lost to Enin and Naruto. Naruto walked up to Shikamaru and retrieved his tanto from the unmoving boy and strapped it back in its rightful place. Thanks Shikamaru, Naruto stated. Shikamaru blinked. Ugh. This is beyond troublesome. Damn Naruto, where did that come from? Is it really that surprising? I mean, all I did was spar with him. He was going to kick me in my fucking groin, so I fucking countered it. That's all, Naruto defended, getting increasingly incensed. You know how painful kicks down there are? Have you ever gotten kicked there? That was unexpected, Shikamaru began. So what? Am I supposed to just grovel in front of people who are better than me? He's supposed to beat me in a match because I'm a dead last? He retorted angrily. I have at least twice as much potential as everyone else. He added in his mind, so true. That was a hard hit though. We still actually need the brat to take the exams tomorrow. Shikamaru silently stared at the boy in front of him. The boy's eyes seemed to slightly glaze over whenever he thought to himself as it were the case now. It was almost as if he were talking to someone. Naruto is such an enigma. Naruto sighed as he regrounded himself in reality. Sorry for my outburst, Shikamaru. No. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way though. It's just that you normally suck. And now you don't. How do I put this? Shikamaru stumbled. I get it. With that said, Naruto turned on his heel, walked off back to class. Not sure what to do anymore, the Nara followed shortly afterwards. It was only after the two boys left that everything erupted into chaos. What the hell just happened? The dead last beat him. Kiba lost. Roanna, you bet me 15 Ryo that Kiba would win. Pay up. Mizuki slipped away, no doubt to do some serious thinking about what he just saw. That left Irika to clean up the aftermath. Heh. The dope did it. That's more evidence that points to him knowing and being capable of more than he lets on. Perhaps I'll find out something more under those goggles. After all, even with his new outfit, he kept his goggles on. There has to be a legitimate reason. Sasuke thought, walking off to sit under a tree to watch the development. Perhaps someone may even unconsciously yell a viable theory as to how and why Naruto won. Surprising. It's almost as if it's a brand new Naruto. He gives off a more confident and serious vibe and he sounds refined. My insects insist that it is indeed him, identifying him by his chakra signature. This requires more information. Was he holding back or acting irrationally on purpose? He couldn't have amassed the skills to beat a taijutsu brawler like Kiba in just a day, or even a month when Kiba has practiced every day even before attending the academy. He had to have been receiving special tutoring for some time. But why would he hide his skills? To what end? The stoic bug user remained unreadable to the outside world, but it was obvious that he was thinking of the match. Who wouldn't be? Naruto-kun won. Hinata breathed a little easier. She had worried that Naruto would have gotten hurt and lost badly to Kiba. It seemed that her concerns had been for nothing, but she couldn't help but wonder if his new behavior was due to what had happened the day before. She blushed when she remembered that she had broken down his door, and how he reacted when he found out what she did. Ino picked up a stick and poked the still unconscious Kiba in the side, but found him unresponsive. Is he dead? He's not dead, Ino pig. He's only unconscious. Quit acting like such a blonde. Sakura yelled. Oh yeah? Billboard brow. Ino pig. They immediately started butting heads like cattle, fighting for dominance. Irika gave a long exhale like really was Naruto's gift to make a class go chaotic in no time flat. Everyone get to class. Back in the class, Naruto sighed and placed his head on the desk. As he blinked he found himself in the mindscape in front of the seal. He peered through the bars and found the great fox sitting on his haunches, waiting for him. What do you want? I need advice. That will be one extra, you know. And I'm already on 97. As soon I finish up to 100, you can finally fix this damn seal into something more scenic. 97? That many? Mug, memory doesn't lie. But I never knew you counted advice. Advice counts as help. Take it or leave it. Besides, it's been more than 6 fucking years that I've been waiting. Naruto sighed. I'll take it. 98. The QB nodded. What is it? Am I moving too fast? I mean, I knew I was pushing it by wearing the outfit and all, but I'm revealing some skills I think I should be keeping hidden longer still. And I don't want Ito catching on to the fact that I'm not a dunce anymore. The guy still wants my bloodline. Frankly, those skills you showed weren't overcomplicated. All you did was counter Kiba's attacks. Besides, those were his weaknesses. He didn't realize that he was the only one attacking, not to mention the fact that his attacks were just attacks with muscle. They lacked any real direction or preceding thought. I don't think you have to worry over anyone suspecting what we do or did, and Ito's probably far away from here. So, is that it? Yeah? I just don't want to be suspected or put under surveillance. I don't want my name slandered or my privacy invaded, like what the Hyuga did yesterday. The nine-tailed fox gave a toothy smirk. That's different. She did that out of concern. The boy defended. Feeling something foreign happening on the outside of his body, Naruto left the mindscape. Look! The guy's asleep. A civilian student exclaimed. I'm not surprised. They agreed for 15 minutes, but they were fighting it out for half an hour. His friend replied. Heh. I'm grateful. That's a half hour I don't have to listen to Irika-sensei's lecture. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a half hour of sleep lost. The boys laughed but were rudely pushed out of the way by a certain Uchiha. Out of my way. Hey! Watch it! Geez. What a prick. The raven-haired youth ignored the boys whom he had affronted. He looked to the Uzumaki who seemed asleep. Perfect. This was likely an opportune time to remove those damned goggles. His curiosity had reached its peak when he replayed the fight in his mind and realized that whenever Naruto would be harmed in the face he took more precautions to protect it than even his weakest vital areas. What aspiring ninja would do that? Shouldn't your vitals be the most guarded? He reached up to the sleeping boy and lifted his head with one hand. Unresponsive. Must be a heavy sleeper. How pathetic. Sasuke-kun, what are you doing? Ino asked. The Uchiha did not answer as he grasped the boy's goggles with his free hand and started to pull it off. Naruto's eyes opened all of a sudden and grabbed Sasuke's offending hand. What do you think you're doing, Uchiha? He bit out, already more than just a bit upset. I'm taking your goggles off. What does it look like I'm doing? The boy replied arrogantly. They're mine, so shove off. Naruto stood up and gave him a slight push away from himself. Try that again and I'll break your arm. He could still be an idiot. I could just ask him. Sasuke thought. Can I look them over? He asked. No. Sentimental value. The Uchiha said something he never thought he'd say. Please? He strained. Sorry, no. Naruto was shocked to hear the Uchiha showing courtesy. Perhaps there was hope for him after all. Naruto baka, just give Sasuke-kun the stupid goggles. Sakura yelled at the blonde-haired boy and attempted to punch him in the head. He perceived the attack and in the time it took to connect, he debated on whether or not to let her him. After hesitating, he allowed her to, and it struck in the same spot where she always battered him in the past. Regardless, he didn't flinch, and his head didn't budge. She was surprised at the circumstance that he didn't cry out or keel like he usually did, and only stared at her with a countenance of mixed emotions, that being disappointment, anger, and, strangely, relief. It hurts, you know, he said quietly. But you don't know anything about me other than my name, but you're always hitting me. I liked you, Sakura. Liked, he repeated, adding emphasis to his usage of past tense, and even if you're not sorry I am. We were shallow, and both fools. His strange expression soon twisted into a glare, and Sakura, who was still trying to process his message, winced and backed away when she saw it. I'm not anymore, and I hope you change too. Until then, never touch me again. Still not fully able to sort out what he meant, she still managed to understand the threat, and retreated from him quickly. Things were quiet for the rest of the day. Quiet and inexplicable. What should we work on, QB? The exam's tomorrow. The best thing would be to study. I have that in the bag. All I have to do is to answer a few questions. I even read over everything from Hinata's notes. She's really nice. She stutters a lot around me though, but not as much around everyone else. I wonder why that is. The nine-tailed fox took a deep breath as he tried to get over the fact that his container was still far too oblivious to some things for his own good. It's just the first day, but if every day is gonna be like this, I'm going to regret not telling him today. I don't have a clue, he answered. So studying is out? Taijutsu is doing alright. That leaves Bukijutsu and Ninjutsu. My Bukijutsu needs work. I'll work on that. I'm not sure if I can throw a kunai properly, even though I remember 99. What? No, it's not. You asked me for what I thought. Which is my opinion, which is guidance, which is advice, which is help. Therefore, it's now at 99, Naruto growled in frustration. Fine. I didn't know I was that helpless. He grabbed up his shuriken and kunai holsters before looking over the abandoned training ground he was in. Spying a training post, he approached it and set it upright and checked it. Seems to be in good condition, he muttered to himself. He backpedaled away what he guessed was 30 yards away from it, and towed a line in the dirt. I've never made it accurately from this distance. I usually miss by a couple of inches at least, and that was before you put the seal on me, he remarked out loud to the QB as much as did to himself. Just try it. Every time you miss, you have to cut yourself. What? Cut yourself? The QB said slowly, almost as if it were a threat. I would try my utmost best so as to avoid maiming myself. Interesting, Naruto said in mock appreciation. No, do it or I'll give you horrible nightmares, Naruto scoffed. Like what? Make you dream of kissing the Sandaime Hokage for starters. Or make you relive the Umbu feeding you vegetables. What the fuck? You're sick, get to it. It was extremely difficult, if not nigh impossible to affect his dreams. But his container didn't need to know that motivation was needed. Naruto hurriedly got out his weapons, 3 kunai and 7 shuriken. The boy stared at the bullseye intently. Alright. Just don't miss. He threw the first kunai. He watched it sail through the air to the target, and hit dead center. That's pretty damn good. Do that another 10 times, then I may be impressed. You'll also get to keep your flesh in one piece too. Naruto gulped. His physical health, or mental one, was on the line. He readied his second kunai and threw again. It struck in the center as well, and it shocked him. To even throw 2 in a row accurately at 30 yards was rare for him. Suddenly he started thinking. I wonder if this has something to do with focus. The QB had caught the thought and momentarily thought the same thing. Perhaps. Boy, focus on the bullseye and throw 3 shuriken from each hand at the same time. I won't punish you if you miss. That should be a Chunin level type of thing, right? What? I can't do that. My aim is atrocious already. Do it, or I'll change my mind about the punishment. The lad readied his shuriken. He focused on the bullseye only just like before, exhaled and then threw the shuriken, with his hand following through with the throw. All the shuriken made it in the bullseye at relatively the same time, seemingly competing for a chance to stick. Some had knocked the others off when reaching the small dot, but the proof was there. All the shuriken had made it to the tiny bullseye. Do it again at 50 yards. The boy retrieved all of his weapons at the bullseye and repeated his success at 50 yards. Then 100. The yard number continued to grow until his aim missed, dropping below the bullseye, due to lack of arm strength. There was no mistake. With focus, his mental acuity, as well as his aim, had improved 1,000-fold overnight. He couldn't miss, unless he lacked the strength to throw. Focus? Mediocre? Yeah, right. He couldn't believe that he'd been disappointed before when he'd first gotten this aspect to his Kekai Genkai. Yada, I'm gonna rip shit up tomorrow. Watch out, Shinobi World, badass ninja number 1 is coming. The boy jumped up and down with a shit-eating grin on his face. Now for ninjutsu, let's see. Henge, Kawarimi and Bunshin shit. The boy's happy demeanor dropped. Oh no, what is it? The QB was starting to wonder if the boy was bipolar, given how quickly he changed his mood. Bunshin, what about it? Speak, boy. I don't have the chakra control for it. The QB now understood. Chakra control for the clone is impossible for you. You will never have the control to even make 10, let alone 3. I suppose that I'm to blame for that. The boy's control wasn't horrible per se. His control at the moment was excellent for an aspiring genin. He had seen Chunin at their barracks walking up trees and walking on water with just chakra and had practiced it for 18 months now. But in order to even have enough control over his Biju enhanced reserves, he would need at least 4 times the control he had now. He didn't know any more chakra control exercises at the moment, and neither did the Nine Tails. In other words, unless he could get a next to impossible amount of control within the next 18 hours, he was screwed. The Bunshin is practically an image. Almost like a genjutsu. That's impossible for me. The QB nodded from inside the seal. For you to even make 10 Bunshin is like pouring water from a 5-gallon bucket through a straw. It's just not going to work unless you can convince them to let you create at least 40 Bunshins instead of 3. Or perhaps plead your case to the Sandame. What if I used Yuki Bunshins instead? Naruto asked. No use. It wouldn't look like you anyway. Just a feral man version of me. Even if a henge was used on the Bunshin, they would detect it and fail you. Even the process of making a clone with Yuki would alert the whole village that my power was being released and used. The village's Umbu would have you under chains and locks in less than a minute. No chance. Fuck. Naruto swore loudly. Everything is stacked against me. Do you know any other cloning techniques? Do I look like I would busy myself learning Bunshin techniques of Unigen? QB spat. Guess that's a no. I'll have to talk to Gigi then. The boy got his throwing weapons together, and replaced them back into the holster, and made his leave. As he ran to the Hokage Tower to see his surrogate grandfather, he wondered if he would be able to help him with his unfortunate situation. The Sandame Hokage stamped another document with his seal of approval. Damn it all. I'm getting too old for this shit. One of these days I'm gonna burn it down for all the good this paperwork is. Introducing a break in his thoughts, the door opened a bit and his secretary poked her head inside. Hello Hokage-sama. I have brought more documents that was sent here seeking approval. Great. It seems that's all my secretary is good for. To bring more paperwork. Just when I thought I was almost done, his secretary finished pushing the door open with her rear and turned around, revealing a double armful of folders of paperwork. She placed them on his desk and made her remark. Also, Hokage-sama, Uzumaki is also here to see you. Uzumaki? You can send him in. Right away, Hokage-sama. She made her way outside and told the boy outside to go in. Soon enough he did. Hiya Gigi. The boy said boisterously, I need a favor. The Hokage stared at the individual in front of him, trying to figure out if he was getting cataracts, or if he was really seeing the Uzumaki. Gigi? Hiruzen cleared his throat. Yes, hello Naruto-kun. I must say, your new look is a vast improvement. Congratulations. What inspired the change? The boy faltered a little before composing himself. I just decided that I was unprepared for the ninja world before. And you are now? Hiruzen asked curiously. He tried to think of a safe response. Well, I guess I'm less unprepared. So what is it that you need, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen asked, puffing on his pipe. Normally, Naruto would come to get his allowance from him, or hide from Umbu he pranked. The latter wouldn't work anyway. But he had to concede the truth. If Naruto used his allowance to buy his new gear, it was money well spent. It's about the exams tomorrow. What about them? I can't do the Bunshin no Jutsu, Gigi. How so? Are they not battle viable, or that you can't make number necessary? He knew the actual problem. He was actually testing Naruto's knowledge of his handicap. I don't have the necessary chakra control to make only a few. I have to make dozens. If I don't, the jutsu will be far from sufficiently successful, Naruto explained. Basically, those academy teachers want something that I can't give. Sarutobi studied the whiskered boy in front of him. His vocabulary has improved, as well as his knowledge of his drawbacks. He's also more settled and refined, somewhat. He's matured, but when? Is it due to his childhood abuse that sped it up? But I saw him last week and he was still behaving like a cheeky brat. Something happened between now and then. Perhaps the stress of the genin exams had caused it. But he's normally too headstrong to ask for help. I wonder. I'm sorry, Naruto. There are no known control exercises that could help, at least, none that can work overnight. Not to mention that there's a reason why Jounin don't perform that particular jutsu. I acknowledge that it's very difficult on their high chakra reserves, as well as being next to useless in battle, being only illusions that cast no shadow of their own. Then why are we learning it? Naruto asked, frustrated. It's because it's a genin level technique. They are considered that because if you cannot perform them at that level then you are not considered worthy of being a ninja. However, after enough progress, genin will pick up higher level clones from their jounin instructors like elemental bunshins. By the time you reach jounin, you pick up the shadow clone jutsu. Those have a lot of potential. But it is a forbidden jutsu, severely taxing on chakra reserves. The jutsu splits up your chakra evenly among the clones, so the more you create the more dangerous it is. As if you create 10 or a dozen, your reserves will be reduced to a 10th or a 12th of its original capacity. A true double-edged sword, not to mention the mental issues from received memories when they disperse. Are you still following? Yeah. I'm still following. Were you expecting me to fall asleep or something? Yes. I did. If what you're saying is true, then why not teach me a higher bunshin technique? Naruto pleaded. Since I have more chakra, I should learn a more advanced clone jutsu. That's common sense. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. If I help you directly with your training, it would be frowned upon because of my position giving you something of an advantage, Sarutobi explained. How about indirectly then? Naruto whispered in a scandalous-sounding tone. No, Naruto. My position was built on trust. I cannot disgrace it by dealings done under the table. Naruto was disappointed. What? Isn't that what being a ninja is all about? Gotta pull a little sneaky from time to time, am I right? Seeing the man's frown made the boy deflate. What if you find some way for me to make more than the ruled 3? Can't that work? I don't predict much good coming from that, Naruto. It would show me making a special case for you, another example of favoritism. I cannot do anything within my power to help. Perhaps you could ask them tomorrow. The only other solution points to that of you requesting a jounin or chunin's help to teach you a new bunshin technique. I recommend favoring one right now. Now it was Naruto's face to show how upset he was, despite trying his best to hide it. He knew that the Hokage wanted what was best for him, even though this was probably one of the worst things he'd ever done to him, that is, not helping him in the way he should have. I guess so. Thanks, Gigi. You're welcome, Naruto-kun. Naruto made his exit and shut the door behind him. Sarutobi released a huge sigh. The aged Sandaime returned to his paperwork, yet unable to think of anything else than seeing the boy's disappointed and accusing expression, accusing him of sabotage and neglect. Most likely guilty. He was especially guilty of not trying more. Well, at least you tried. I know. But none of the higher-ups wanted to train me. Probably because of my status. Didn't know I was discriminated by them too. So many excuses? Busy, late, don't feel like it, sick relatives. Naruto was growing angrier with each excuse he repeated. Fuck. We'll show them, QB. Why are we even trying to get on a team anyway? Just to have one of these jounin pricks order us around? He exclaimed the last question, exasperated almost to the point of tears. My teammates probably won't even work with me. Fuck, fuck, each expletive growing louder than the last. He kicked down his dilapidated dining room table and it fell over, collapsing in pieces. He finally huddled in the corner of the room, crying. Why? He sobbed. I don't even want that damn hat anymore. To be leader of a village like this? They all fucking hate me. Look, Naruto. The QB slipped and called Naruto by name, a rarity in itself. The distraught boy barely noticed in his emotional state. Yeah, you know what you want. You want to kill a scumsucking who wants to eat your goddamn brains just to get your Kekai Genkai, and if he isn't wiped out, a lot of people are gonna die. You want to become someone that people can look up to, not necessarily the Hokage. You want to get powerful to do everything you want, and if you are going to allow a simple bunshin to stand in your way of that ambition, you're not Naruto. You're just a washed-up wuss who gave up. Now get the fuck up and grow a fucking backbone. Naruto, who had been listening half-heartedly, restrained himself from laughing at the adverse temperaments in the attempted motivational speech but had his usual confidence and determination return that was clear by merely looking at his eyes. That's right. He knew why he lived. If for nothing else, he wanted to avenge the death of his parents. That was his drive, and he wasn't going to have some ignorant civilians and biased ninja stand in his way of that. If anything, they were the ones that pumped him full of the hate that made him want to take it out on his parents' killers. Thanks, QB. I needed that. Kurama. Excuse me? That's my name, boy. My name is Kurama. I'm getting so damn sick of you calling my title as a name. Heh. Good night, Kurama. Good night, Naruto. Next, Uchiha Sasuke. The instructor announced. Said boy frowned and stood. Finally, it was his turn. Ninjutsu was his forte, his field of expertise in the class. He would do nothing short of perfect. He made his way to the designated room and shut the door behind him. Troublesome. Couldn't they have let me just go on home? A certain Nara grumbled to his whiskered companion. I already passed. There was no need to keep me here. Quit your complaining. At least you passed. Naruto retorted, eyeing Shikamaru's hataite with rising envy. He had tied it around his upper arm on his biceps. It's a forehead protector, why don't you wear there? I'm not complaining. I'm merely saying how displeased I am. And it doesn't matter where you wear it, as long as you have it in noticeable view, it's not against the rules. And what do you mean at least I passed? Practically everyone passed. Only you and Ino are left. Troublesome. I'm saying that because there is a high chance I won't. Eh? You seem confident doing the written exam, which is unusual for you I might add, ace taijutsu with Sasuke and Kiba. All that's left is ninjutsu, and that's a breeze. Even I didn't complain doing that. Fortune smiles on the lazy Naruto bemoaned. The door opened again to reveal a raven-haired youth sporting his hataite on his forehead. He smirked and reclaimed his seat. Almost as soon as he did, fangirls surrounded him. It only served to make him drop the smirk for a look of slight exasperation. Next, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto heaved himself up and steeled himself. He went inside to see both Mizuki and Irika sitting behind a desk, with a box with a few headbands in it. So close. Okay, Naruto. Please begin. Perform a henge. Anyone special? Naruto asked Irika. Do anyone. Naruto placed his hand in a ram hand seal. Henge. He was surrounded by a thin layer of smoke. The smoke soon cleared to reveal a perfect version of Irika. Naruto! Pay attention! Naruto shouted in his impersonation. Excellent. The yell was comical and unnecessary though. Irika was displeased. Now to perform a kawarimi. Are you ready? Hi sensei. Irika threw a senbon needle at Naruto's foot and he instantly substituted for a chair. Very good. Naruto returned back to his place and waited for the words he didn't want to hear. Now, perform the Bunshin no Jutsu, 3 of them please. And yet so far. Irika-sensei, can I do more than 3? Mizuki spoke up for the first time. No you can't, Naruto. 3's the number set by the Academy's board. I see. So it's non-negotiable? No Naruto, they're not. Those are the rules. Prepared to fail, Naruto set his face in a grim expression. To Irika, it was as if it were chiseled out of granite. Outside, 15 minutes later, Naruto watched the students jostle around with their parents. All were happy except for him. He could hear small exclamations of parents who claimed to be proud of their children who had passed their genin exam. Yeah. Let them celebrate. They're gonna die out there in the real world. A ninja is just a guy who kills for money. That's what it boils down to. I don't think I would have been happy either way if I had passed. It's just a means to an end. But in order to be able to carry out my purposes, I need to become a ninja. I won't get to learn anymore, and I can't get stronger. True. Hey. The dobe didn't pass. What an idiot. Kiba shouted. He still kicked your ass yesterday, Kiba. I'm out 15 Rio because you lost. Shut up, Roanna. I underestimated him. Naruto ignored him. If Kiba was trying to get a rise out of him, he was going to be disappointed. He wasn't going to start up any shenanigans, but if Kiba wanted to he was going to put a stop to it. Hey dead last. Can't make a simple bunshin? You're such an idiot, Kiba taunted. No answer. Don't you hear me talking to you, dumbass? Still no answer. Kiba stomped up to Naruto and grabbed Naruto's shoulder. The Uzumaki took a deliberate deep breath in an effort to calm himself, and failed. He'd had a very trying day. Take your hand off of my shoulder, Kiba. Naruto growled. He knew that it wasn't really Kiba's fault why he was acting like this. He was probably only feeling hyped up because he passed the exam and Naruto didn't, and he took it as a sign that he was actually better than Naruto at taijutsu and was aching for a rematch without any consideration for the means. Oh yeah? What are you going to do about it, dead last? Naruto grabbed the handle in his short holster. He was about to pull out the yet-to-be-discovered weapon out of it when he heard Mizuki's voice. Naruto! I want to have a word with you, he yelled, walking up to said boy. Inuzuka, go on home. I can still renounce your ninja status, you know. It's still early. Huh? The boy asked to clarify. He means it's not too late to take back your headband from you, mongrel, Naruto scoffed. What was that? Kiba yelled. Enough. Mizuki ordered. Kiba, leave. Kiba grudgingly let Naruto's shoulder go and left with his friends. He glanced back at Naruto with hate in his eyes as if to say, this isn't over. Naruto had a bored look in his eyes that spoke volumes of indifference. He turned his attention back to his teacher. What is it, Mizuki-sensei? Mizuki grinned. There is a way to still become a genin. A secondary exam, if you want to call it that. Naruto landed on the branch neatly and leapt off to another in a ninja dash through the trees. He was doing rather well, he supposed. The better his time, the more time he had to read over the scroll. The Kyuubi caught the thought. You, of course, know that this is a trap. I know. But I'm sure you know why I went through with this. Hi. If you get caught, just blame it on the teacher and childish ignorance. Kurama, With my abilities, I can just read over the scroll and understand everything. With my memory, I'll remember everything, training myself for a long time. Nothing will go wrong. The QB did not answer. Nothing was going right. You just had to laugh at him, didn't you? It was funny. You are the nine-tailed fox, he yells at me. I mean, I know about you for what, 4 or 5 years now. What did he expect me to do, keel over in shock and cry? And he accused me of being you. Naruto had to cover his mouth to keep from laughing out loud, probably. But he is about to kill Irika. You should do something though. Which technique have you learned already? I learned the shadow clone jutsu, elemental clones and exploding clones. Wait a minute. Naruto grew a huge grin that threatened to split his face in two. Bunshin Daibakaha. I worry if you are still sane. Shut up, Mizuki team. He's not like that. Yumino yelled, panting for breath. I'm gonna put you out of your misery, Irika. You're only leading a pathetic existence, being a teacher to brats. Lord Orochimaru was right. This village is waste of land space. It ought to be destroyed, with the way paved for something more glorious. Naruto peeked from around the tree. Mizuki stood with a Fuma shuriken over Irika, who was struggling to even get to his knees. It did not look like an ideal situation for Irika. That's it. I'm intervening. Naruto grabbed the handle of his tanto. Don't kill Mizuki. It seems that he might have information on Orochimaru. The Nine Tails warned. This is going to be a whole lot harder if I'm not going for a killing blow. How am I supposed to beat a Chunin? Naruto grabbed his mystery holster. Just do it. If I think you're going to lose, I'll help you by using the Feral State. Naruto created a Kage Bunshin next to him, and told it to henge into the Hokage. Go flank around. He whispered. The clone left to do as it were told as Naruto jumped out of the tree to land before the Chunin. Mizuki. So you think I'm the QB, huh? He yelled at the betrayer. What? You should have just run away, brat. He yelled back, momentarily stopped in his process of disposing of Irika. If you really think I'm the nine-tailed fox demon, shouldn't you be running away? Kurama. I need some help with killing intent. The Biju complied and channeled his concentrated killing intent at the ninja criminal to the point that of making him fall to his knees, but he fought it, soon regaining control of his legs. I'm used to Lord Orochimaru's killing intent. Yours doesn't even come close. Mizuki strained through gritted teeth. Naruto frowned. Damn. Maybe it's because Kurama has to channel it through me, the reasons it's not as strong as it should be. Mizuki. What is the meaning of this? What are you doing with Irika-san? The silver-haired Chunin paled when he heard the Hokage's voice. He turned around slowly to see Hiruzen, frowning like a thundercloud. After looking closer, Mizuki did a bit of a double take and grinned. Nice try, Naruto. I see that it's just a henge. But even so, how did he do that? He can't do a Bunshin, and Bunshin can't talk or be hidden under henge. He must have learned a Bunshin technique from the scroll. But which one's a clone? He took 2 kunai and threw them at blurring speeds at both Narutos. Both exploded into smoke, one into nothing, one into a log. HN, Kage Bunshin. Impressive. But I'm a Chunin. You're not even a Genin, he yelled, looking up into the trees. He got no answer to his taunt. If you don't come back, I'll kill Irika. He still heard nothing except for a stray owl, hooting its cry. Deciding to make good on his threat, he looked down again while taking out a kunai. He gawked. Irika wasn't there. What's the matter? The ethereal-sounding voice seemed to come from everywhere. Where are you? I'm going to gut you like a fish. The Chunin yelled. All right. I'm coming, Naruto said, as if in multiple voices. We're all coming. Before Mizuki could react to the fact that Naruto referred to himself in plural third person, 50 clones came into the clearing. As if on cue, they all grasped the secondary weapons on their waists. They all withdrew the handles at the same time and swiped it down rapidly, the weapon extending itself into a telescoping baton. They all assumed Naruto's taijutsu stance as they readied themselves. Mizuki was feeling overwhelmed, but he didn't let it show. Get him! The clones charged the traitor, bomb rushing him. Mizuki took out a kunai in each hand and prepared to defend himself. He swiped at the closest clone and he puffed away into smoke. Seeing a clone about to strike him in the face, he dropped to his knees, letting the clone strike another of his brethren. He threw one of his kunai at a very suspicious-looking clone that seemed inactive, smirking in satisfaction when he saw it bleed. All the clones dispelled. I knew you were the one. You didn't try to fight like everyone else. Mizuki walked up to the collapsed boy who was holding his chest. Mizuki readied his last kunai and chucked it at Naruto's throat, grinning in satisfaction when he saw the boy begin to bleed out. There was momentary pause before Naruto seemed to lose color and every fiber of his being before he fell apart into water. Water Bunshin? Immediately following, an IWA clone dropped out of the trees onto the baffled Chunin with only his knees onto Mizuki's shoulders and then dispersing into rocks, further injuring the man. With the silver-haired man crying out in pain, yet another voice sounded from behind him. Futon de Tapa. Wind release. Great breakthrough. A massive and powerful wind from a clone blew the man away towards the real boy. He couldn't stop his motion when he saw the Uzumaki take out his baton and tightened his grip on it. No! Mizuki realized what was about to happen. Naruto sidestepped and clocked the silver-haired man with the baton with a devastating clothesline move, shattering his jaw. Mizuki's legs flew forward in front of him and the man landed on his back, out cold. Naruto sighed. It was finally finished. He created some Kage Bunshin that each carried the man by a limb. He was joined by 2 more Kage Bunshin that had Iruka leaning on his shoulder, and another who had the forbidden scroll of seals. They walked back to the village, not one word passing between them. Hiruzen sighed and put away the ball. He had seen enough. They were almost here anyway. He had felt disappointed when he had learnt that Naruto didn't pass his exam, but he wasn't surprised. The genin exams were practically rigged against him and creating weak genin in the process. He couldn't help him, but somewhere along the line, he felt that he should have done more to help Naruto. But how did Naruto learn those fighting skills, the jutsu? Someone was helping him, but he did not know who. Or rather, he did not know of anyone willing to teach the pariah of the village a jutsu of any kind. A few knocks came at the door. Hiruzen sighed. "Come in, Iruka-san, Naruto-kun." The door opened to reveal said people, who one of which dispelled his clones carrying Mizuki. The action dropped the traitor unceremoniously to the floor. Sarutobi sensed his Umbu about to attack, so he diverted them by ordering them to carry the unconscious man to Marino Ibiki at torture and interrogations. They disappeared with the captured man, akin to nothing more than spirits. "Hokage-sama, it's been a long night for me. I would like to return home, or go to a hospital, and I may have injured something," the Chunin requested. "Very well, Iruka. You may go." The Chunin was about to go when he hesitated. "Naruto?" The boy turned around to look at him. "Hi." Yumino took off his headband and walked up to Naruto and dropped it into his hands. "Arigato, Naruto, for saving me. I'll see you come Monday." Naruto understood but feigned ignorance. "Monday?" he asked. "Hi. Congratulations, Naruto. You're now a ninja," Iruka said with a smile. Naruto didn't mirror the countenance. "Come on, Naruto, smile a little. Why don't you put it on? Put it on your forehead, let's see how it looks," Sarutobi asked. "I would rather not. I have an embarrassing scar there," Naruto said. Iruka thought back to the day before concerning the goggles fiasco. "I see. Okay," he affirmed to him, not wanting to affront or offend the Uzumaki. "When you're at home, then." Sarutobi, on the other hand, wasn't convinced. For as long as he knew Naruto, he didn't scar easily, especially with his condition, that of being a Jinchuriki. Nothing short of a branding would scar him. "Naruto, you're among friends. Please try it on. Aren't you excited? You're a step closer to being Hokage." "I would rather not, Hokage-sama." Naruto glared. Hiruzen was surprised. He had expected Naruto to be bouncing off the walls, but he was practically behaving like a branch Hyuga, firm, glaring, hiding his forehead and all that. However, he didn't press the issue. "That's fine, Naruto. I will respect your privacy." Naruto nodded. "May I leave as well? It's been ups and downs all day today, and I'm exhausted." Sarutobi frowned. "There's that attitude again. That would serve everyone well, Naruto. You may come in tomorrow at 10 a.m. to report what happened." Naruto gave a slow nod. "All right, Hokage-sama. Tomorrow." Naruto left, and shut the door behind him. As he left, Kurama shrugged inside the seal. "So you're a ninja now, huh? I thought you would be doing cartwheels right now." "Not now, Kurama. I just want to sleep." And so he did, without even realizing he was being watched. Like a shadow, Ito followed him for a bit longer, before disappearing like the non-existent ghost he tended to be. Caution, filler chapter 11. Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed. He had completed hearing the story from both Naruto and Iruka's point of view an hour ago, and considering how he had been watching the whole development using his crystal ball technique, he knew that they did not omit any details. Because of that damned defector Mizuki, Naruto is now fully aware of his Jinchuriki status. The Hokage cursed internally. Some choice swears that he hadn't used in years. He hadn't wanted Naruto to know about his inner demon, but now that he thought about it, regardless if whether or not he should have been told by Hiruzen himself from an earlier age, it hadn't been fair to assume that Naruto would never have found out about it eventually. However, one thing concerned him greatly: the boy had taken it so well. Something like that should have fazed him, despite acquiring some sense of maturity like he had seemed to have gotten overnight. Instead, Naruto had laughed. "But I'm sure that no one's told him." But if they did, someone's head is going to roll. Everyone in the village knew the penalty for speaking about something that is forbidden under S-rank secrecy. That was one issue. The next one, albeit less serious, was still enigmatic. Naruto, an aspiring genin, had beaten a chunin like Mizuki. The man had years of experience over Naruto with smarts and weight class, yet Naruto had tricked him, fought him and used jutsus with a fairly high degree of proficiency. And that didn't even include the fact that Naruto was now well-versed in taijutsu. Then there was how quickly he learned the Shadow Clone Jutsu as well as the Elemental Clone variants. To even learn the Shadow Clone Jutsu in a few hours is stupendous for anyone short of a genius and a jonin, much less Elemental Bunshins as well. As it stands now, Naruto is the strongest in his class, at least twice as strong as the so-called prodigy Uchiha Sasuke. If he gets placed on that team, the team will be the strongest and imbalanced. But which team? I'll need to discuss it with the Jonin senseis tomorrow. They already know about the incident. Sarutobi rested his chin on his hands, suddenly feeling wistful. To think Naruto has grown the most and is the strongest of his generation without our assistance, as much as it shames me to say it, is unsettling. The aged Hokage puffed on his pipe twice and returned to his work. While doing so, he discovered a note between two reports that warranted his attention. I shall return to check up on the dealings of the changes I have instated. I will also need to speak to Hyuga Hayashi while in your presence. I hope I receive a better reception than what I received all those years ago. I shall be there at 9 p.m. tonight, the man grimaced. Oh, it's the man who saved Hinata and wanted favors from us. Ugh. It's going to be a long night. A boy was currently sitting in a lotus position with his hands in a ram seal. He wasn't trying to perform a jutsu, or concentrating his chakra to use. He found that doing this as a form of meditational exercise helped him to relax and collect his thoughts, and sift through his memories. However, one kept disturbing him, that being of how he'd gotten killed last night by Mizuki. Naruto opened his eyes and raised an eyebrow. Where did he get that visualized thought? It's as if he remembered dying, when he obviously didn't. He visualized it again, and got stuck trying to figure out why. Deciding to experiment, he created 2 Kagebunshin, shadow clones. He whispered to one of them to dispose of the other when they were out of sight, careful to not let the other catch on that he was about to get murdered. All right, you two, he said aloud, go into the forest. They complied and went into the dense gathering of trees. 2 minutes later, Naruto felt an influx of information, already embedding itself in his memory, never to be forgotten. Then he heard the clone he had ordered to kill the other return back to him with a smirk on his face. I got it done, boss. You gonna let me on why I had to off the other guy? Naruto smiled in response, fully realizing what had happened. Sure do. So you gonna tell me? Kid? You alright? You do know you're talking to yourself, right? People will think you're crazy, the fox said, speaking for the first time since the day's beginning. Huh? The clone asked. I can hear Kurama. I'm not crazy. He is. The clone said, pointing at the original Naruto. Naruto did a double take. First off, I'm not crazy. Second, Naruto pointed to his gut. Kurama is inside me, not you. How the heck did he hear the QB? Damn clone, fucking twat. Both of the boys stopped and stared at each other. Can you hear me think? Naruto asked in his mind. No shit. Of course I can. Naruto heard the answer in his own mind, courtesy of the clone that appeared to be in thought. Kurama was well, he felt confused and excited. The only person he ever really had to talk to, or at, depending on how his container perceived it, was Naruto, and with this, he'd actually be able to talk to more people, even if they were technically the same brat. The seal must have made it possible for you both to communicate by telepathy, like a connection. But why did you make him kill the other one? Kurama asked. I remember getting stabbed in the back by a kunai because of this clone here. Naruto thought with a sweat drop. The clone only smirked in response. You know, I had considered bashing his head in with a rock. Naruto looked at the clone in mild horror. Sometimes I scare myself. I heard that. The clone retorted. Kurama sighed. He had no doubt that on the outside, his container must have looked like he was in a staring contest with himself, and that he really was suffering from some kind of neurosis. He cleared his throat to get Naruto to become more aware of what he was doing, and Naruto sighed while dispelling the clone. Anyway, he thought to Kurama. So these clones pass on memories when they disperse. This has loads of benefits, like for scouting things out, and going into hazardous situations when and where I can't risk myself going into. Think about it. The cogwheels in Naruto's head started grinding. I could be my own team. Not a registered team, but one I have in case my so-called future teammates let me down. This must be an answer to my prayers. A team that you could rely on, one that is expendable and able to communicate through literal speech. But a team would need diverse talents. Not everyone exactly the same, so it's not an ideal team. The kitsune replied. A team of people, that is, you, could be skilled, but it'd have a lot of problems with versatility. Just think about it. If they can pass on memories, they might be able to pass on several forms of progress. Or even my elemental clones. Each elemental clone might be able to train affinities until they become strong, and pass them to me upon dispelling. You're the one who helps me to make those clones anyway, since you're the one who knows what the hell chakra is, what kind of yin and yang composes it, and can recreate it. You could make the elemental versions of the shadow clones. Sounds viable theoretically. Perhaps I could even use my own Biju chakra and vitality to make the clones longer lasting. Imagine, like you said, you could even have these clones training by using clones themselves. When the important clones dispel, you could gain years upon years of training, all in a month or two. I like it. The boy exclaimed. We won't need the village's mediocre team. We'll do it ourselves. But what will we call ourselves? Wait, do we need to give ourselves a name? He hesitated a bit, before making up his mind. Yeah, we'll name ourselves, the great fox thought for a moment. The idiot and his clones? He asked humorously. No. The boy was not amused. How about the Tenacious 13? He asked after a while of thought. Before Kurama could ask why the name, Naruto went on to explain. 13 aspects. Clones with different aspects. Each clone will focus on one of each specialty that comes with being a shinobi. Futon, Katon, Doton, Suiton, Raiton, Taijutsu, Kenjutsu, trapping, medical, espionage and assassination, interrogation and torture, scouting and censoring. The QB did a quick count. That's 12. It sounded viable, but if Kurama had to be honest with himself, he had to wonder why Naruto didn't mention Fuinjutsu. It was either because it went without saying, or Naruto simply didn't want to pursue it. He himself had an idea as to why the kid was like that, and his assumption was that Naruto might have believed that it helped ruin his life. Fuinjutsu being used by the man who wanted to kill him, Fuinjutsu being used to turn him into a Jinchuriki. Nah, he knew that Naruto didn't hate him. But he did hate everything that came with that effect. And I make lucky number 13. Lucky? You know what I mean, the QB grinned. This shows that the group is unique. Tenacious means firm and strong, not easily stopped, and 13 is number of the members, and it's dark and foreboding. I like it. Looks like you have an ambition. So what, they're gonna train, or are they supposed to help you kill Ito when you're good and ready? They're gonna help me train, Naruto replied. He got to work, now having a goal to work towards. And when I'm strong enough, I'm gonna put Ito in the fucking ground. Fair. Let's get started. We'll have the elemental clones practice your affinity. They might even need to go away to the elemental nations, learning and practice to bring up their affinities. The first thing to do is to create a clone that's durably enough to sustain itself, or at least not disperse when someone hits it. I got a couple of ideas. Since there's obviously a link thing going on between you, me and the clones, maybe they can either pull on my chakra after being made, or you can try to make them while using the tailless state. It was a simple experiment, but was an overall disappointing failure. The clones could try to access Kurama's chakra wirelessly as he put it, but while there was a switch being flicked, there simply wasn't any power to access. On the second aspect of the experiment, Naruto would create his clones while in the feral state, but they were still easily destroyed in one hit. He didn't even have long to put this through trial, as there was always the risk of alarming the whole village that the QB's chakra was being used. There is still another alternative. You gotta allow me to take over and create a shadow clone with your chakra with my unadulterated chakra as its core. No, don't interrupt me, brat. I know that it'd scare the shit out of everyone in the entire fucking village. We just have to leave the village first, and do it at first convenience when alone. Naruto grumbled heatedly in disappointment. Alright, fine. I guess we'll just move on to improve our general training then. I have it all planned out. The taijutsu I use, which I inspired you to create by being passively aggressive. Yeah, you egotistical prick. It relies mainly on dodging, countering and parrying with the tanto, but I'm gonna need one that revolves around me going on the offensive. All I really need is an attacking stance, and then extend that into new katas for later. I'll try to design it later. Perhaps it will come to me then, but now, I need to knowledge. Whoa. You bashed the academy for all these years, and now you want to get in on all of that useless book learning? I didn't know how to create Kage Bunshins back then. He defended hastily while he created 2 clones with excessive chakra. Without even considering the consequences, he told them to read everything, all the while trying to ignore their pitiful faces and not wanting to get saddled with the duty. Just go, goddammit. After they left, his inner demon suggested that he create another clone to go to the hospital to learn how some medical techniques, and Naruto wholeheartedly agreed. As much as I can't believe it, I read that medic nin are sometimes a lot more important than even the elite jonin, or those on the shinobi council. In times of war, battles were won because of how competent the medics of different platoons were. This one is going to need a lot of work. It's also the reason I chose it over genjutsu. Even if I am susceptible to extreme forms of genjutsu, I should be able to release myself from it if my clones channel chakra into my network using their chakra, or killing the caster. Anyway, I can create this clone now to get the basic knowledge now and create a more permanent one later. I assume that clones in the library will read basic medical books and remedies, but I need something higher up the ladder. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He created the cross-shaped ram seal and created a clone. Go to the hospital and insist to look in on the operating theater. Ask while in a henge as a chunin ninja. Also, try to see if you could get to read any medical books they have. If they ask why, tell them you want to become a medical ninja, he ordered. Curry favor them, bribe them, kiss their asses if you have to. The clone nodded. You got it, boss. He yelled before using a body flicker to leave. Okay, that's done. Next, we have interrogation and torture. Naruto seethed a little, remembering his past. For once, all those mob beatings in the past are going to come in handy. I won't be squeamish when it comes to inflicting pain or using mind games on opponents. He gritted his teeth as he recalled how the villagers had expressed their intense dislike and hatred of him both verbally and physically. I can go over to the Department of Torture and Interrogations now. After all, I know where it is and I've got nothing better to do. Scouting and censoring, I'll think of something later. Kurama, I'm going to make this team and I'm going to follow through with it. Even when I get placed on a genin team, at least I'll have a better one watching my own back. even if it's a team comprised entirely of physical manifestations of myself. Naruto smirked. Sounds a bit pathetic, relying solely on myself like that, but we will be the best. Whoever said there was no I in team? Kurama grinned like a feral beast inside his cage. At the library, Shinichi replaced a couple of stray books back onto the shelves. There used to be a whole lot more books left out, back when people only amused themselves with reading. But now people had this television and all that technological shit. They had simply no time for reading. What he would give for this whole damn library to burn down so he could let his 70-something-year-old body retire in peace, especially since there wasn't much to be done anyway. He returned to the desk located at the entrance, and was about to lay on the futon he had hid behind it when he heard the door push in, no doubt to let in someone. He groaned. Just when I'm about to take a nap, someone just had to come in. He peered over the desk and saw two rather familiar-looking people waiting to sign the check-in book. Huh, Minato? He queried, a bit unsure. His sight was a bit fleeting. He momentarily thought he was seeing doubles. Even more reason to retire. No. They said in unison, as if rehearsed. My name is Naruto. Naruto, huh? Name sounds kinda familiar, could be my eyes going, but am I seeing two of you? The clones looked at each other almost in a staring contest of sorts. To the old man, they looked as if they were sharing an unspoken conversation. Which they in fact were. Tell him the truth? No. We should lie. And say what? Identical brothers? Wouldn't work. Let's just go with the truth, tell him we're clones. If he kicks us out, we'll just come back in different henges and work with that. After all, he couldn't even recognize us as clones. He won't recognize us as two different people, anyway. The other one nodded in approval. Okay. Let's just roll with it. We're clones. One of them said. Clones? One of the man's eyebrows rose, no doubt doing some thinking. Sounds like something I've heard of before. Then something in his mind clicked. Minato? Is that you, sending your clones to read for you again? The man asked, a bit testily. Is he talking about the fourth? No. Sorry, old man, he passed on around 13 years ago. Sorry. One of the clones replied, hoping the two weren't too close. He did not want to see an old man in tears, receiving knowledge more than a decade late. No, it's all right. So someone sent you to read for them, huh? Are you going to stay overnight? The man asked, as if expecting to hear yes. Hi. Minato did this with me, you know. I'll let you stay in the library for as long as you exist, weeks, if needs be, and all I ask in return is that you help out when I'm unable to. Sounds fair? The old man asked pleadingly. I don't have an apprentice or assistants to help. Sure, one of them interrupted hastily, eager to please. Whatever it took to stay longer, he believed. We accept. At the hospital, Kuri sighed and fell into her chair at her station in the nurse's office, desperate to have a minute to herself. Her shifts as a fresh nurse at the hospital were the very definition of murder. If she didn't carry more money home at the end of the month, she was going to go home and stay there. Sure, she liked to help people, but right now, nothing was going right. As if it was the devil's way of adding an extra straw to break her back, the air conditioning unit sputtered and suddenly died. She went over to it and fiddled with its dials, but nothing worked. She banged it, pleaded with it, threatened it, but nothing worked. She swore under her breath, just barely audible to keep the head nurse from hearing her profanity. After a while, she gave up and went downstairs. If she couldn't get comfortable indoors, she would simply try sitting out in the small garden at the back, she mused. One's as good as the other. She opened the hospital's front entrance, and bumped into a young man who had appeared to have chosen that same moment to enter the hospital as well, and he was so strong that she was knocked onto her backside. Oh Cammy, why me? She was exasperated. Today must have been an off day for her. Oh. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Sama Mason. He apologized profusely, hoping that he didn't hurt her. No. It's all right, she lied. She hoped he wasn't an important figure, because she did not need any more bullshit to put up with. They both picked themselves up and observed each other for a moment. A Chunin? He was nondescript, nothing special going on for him. 5'9", spiky brown hair that framed a round face with a pointed chin. A nurse? She was dressed in the usual nurse's garb. She had straight black hair that fell to her shoulders with lovely teal eyes. The woman currently had her arms folded, which pronounced her already impressive bosom. All in all, even though being civilian-born and in medical nurse's clothes, she was an attractive woman. Naruto's clone had made a mental effort to keep himself from blushing. Excuse me, I am hoping this isn't a bad time, but I would like to know where to go so I can learn some medical techniques. I would. Sorry, can't help you. I'm not really up there on the medical staff ladder, and besides, no one even has the time to scratch their own heads, let alone teach someone. I don't think any of us can help you. The young Chunin was crestfallen but brightened a little after some thinking. Maybe you could put in a good word for me to someone who could help me then? Or I could assist you in something or other so you could have some time to help me? I really don't want to become cannon fodder, he said pathetically, hoping to excite her sympathy. She, at the very least, did look like she was considering his offer. I could use his help. Tell you what, if you can fix an AC unit upstairs I'll make some time for you, she replied in a careless tone. Perhaps some conditioned error would stop her from being all bothered. Just to fix it. Fair. Alright, get me the manual and I'll fix it. By the way, what's your name? Curry. And yours? He gave it some thought. Naruto. That's a weird name, but if your mama liked it, then who am I to judge? Follow me, Naruto-san. The stoic Hyuga had settled himself behind his desk to continue his paperwork concerning the clan. His daughter had finally left him to go train with her sister, so she broke it down? I never once thought that her feelings for the young Uzumaki would even break her shy personality, even if it was only for an isolated incident one-time thing. She broke his door in her concern for him. Perhaps she is enamored with him. Regardless, all we may owe him is the replacement of the door. Nothing else. Hayashi began sorting through his documents. The in and out boxes were rather messy. Soon, they were neatly organized and all the paperwork approved were stamped and signed while the others went into the wastebasket. He was a rather quick and efficient, and he rather enjoyed doing it. But soon after he had no more to continue and he was left with nothing to do, he went into deep thought about his elder daughter and how she was going to be placed on a newly christened genin team come Monday morning. Just as he was about to brainstorm who her potential teammates could be, a knock came at his door. Who could that be? Hayashi activated his Byakugan to see through the door. Why is there an umbu up here? He mused. He's probably an errand from the Hokage. But what? Deciding to find out the answers, he invited the military shinobi inside. The umbu entered into the room with grace and wariness, not one movement wasted as he were nothing but a clock. He stood, somewhat at attention in front of the Hyuga clan head. Close at his heels was a sentient branch Hyuga, no doubt an escort. How may I help you? The umbu answered in a level tone. Lord Hokage wished for you to receive this letter. He retrieved a note of seemingly nowhere, and handed to him before using a body flicker to leave. The branch member took his leave as well now that his job was complete, leaving the clan head to have some privacy. Only then did the man open his letter. The document could hardly be called a note, let alone a letter. The whole message was written as if it nothing but a little ditty. The man from back then has come back again. Make sure to be on time at 9 tonight. He hopes there will be no fuss over what we shall discuss. Solo is the way to go. Hayashi closed his eyes. No doubt that the Hokage was an avid reader of poetry, and decided to code the letter like that of one. The message was clear to him though, although that could be to the cause that the message involved him directly. It probably means that the man that rescued Hinata has returned and wishes to speak to the Sandaime, and myself about the favors we did for him. Noble and selfless they may be, they feel suspicious, considering that he said he doesn't pledge loyalty to Konoha. He never did cotton to the man. Despite hiding his face, Hayashi always felt like he was talking to someone different each time, despite the fact that he always felt familiar and that, not that he would ever admit it, scared him. What if Sarutobi loses Naruto's trust harem? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.